This is Chris Lane, I think you met before. This is Gail Baumkirchner, and then Ann Lane, Ann Lane, yes, okay. And I believe you all recall Frank Ragland is here today, so Lori and Roman Zwally and Dwayne Simons are our commissioners, so.
Hi.
That's about the best I can come up with as kind of a brief introduction. but-
You nailed it, Tim.
Got past the stressful part now. Now we just got all the easy stuff. A subdivision was proposed by Frank in 2008, I believe. You can correct me if you're wrong. I know we did a lot of things in 2009, but I believe the first time he was talking to me was 2008.
It was 07.
07?
Yep, it was late 2007, because I figured 10 years.
Wow.
So, a minor digress. Which piece of property did you obtain first?
The Rock Springs.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So,
Well, you know, it was almost simultaneous, Tim, because we had to have access through Shyrock to get to Rock Springs.
right.
And that came about a blink before we bought Shyrock. So I guess it was first.
So, Plum Creek was the seller of the Rock Springs subdivision that turned into to be the 5-lot minor that's up on this end. And then the rest of this was gonna be Shyrock, and a number of people questioned how they were gonna access this property up here and Frank solved that first and foremost, so he was in a position and purchased that, and then this went to Five Valleys Land Trust in part of the 7 parcel exchange for the Gorge property.
Oh, okay.
This is one of them. The other 60-acre piece was down here, Tin Can Alley, and then the other subdivision starts with a Q.
Quarter circle.
Quarter circle, thank you. And then there was a little other piece. But anyway, this was the largest piece in that exchange. Well, let's say it this way. This was the largest developable piece in that, because there might have been more acreage in Tin Can Alley, but that's always going to be. So, anyway, that's where it started off with that process, and Frank, I think, came with a unique and novel concept of having a motor coach process, so we did that. I don't know that we need a lot more background of that, but I've certainly appreciated Frank and just getting through the whole steps of that. So there was a whole myriad of conditions that were applied to the subdivisions through the review processes, and then there was amendments to those. But for this first hearing, the germane condition is that the Rock Springs Granite Creek LLC and the Shyrock LLC be annexed into the fire district, since Plum Creek properties and state properties were not ever considered to be part of fire districts. So that was one of the requirements, is to annex those pieces of property. We have had a petition signed and presented for your consideration to annex those in there. I've tried to reach out and contact the rural board, and certainly contacted the fire chief, and even Jim Ward was, anyway, I announced it at the meeting last night if anybody wanted to show up. So this is a situation where one of the conditions needs to be met before they can be looking at final plat consideration for the motor coach community. And with that, I've prepared a resolution for your consideration, and I think it has pertinent language in here. The one thing I guess I've extended myself is that the Superior Rural Fire District supports the annexation. I don't have a letter to document that. I don't have a statement like that. Rob Torrey certainly didn't have any question about that. So if you're not comfortable with not having something in documentable form like that, or at least a verbal assent, we could change that and eliminate that. That's the only thing that I would bring your attention to in that resolution, is that there wasn't a formal response or verbal response from Superior Rural Fire Department. If you have any questions of me. Frank, can you tell me, do you know offhand the acreage of Rock Springs?
The configuration changed just a little bit through the process, but it should be just shy of 80 acres.
80 acres.
Yeah.
So 146 and 80 acres is going to be the total area that's going to be annexed into the fire district. And I wished I was much better on annexation and could even inform the owners of what those consequences are going to be, but my understanding is that the rural assessment, which is around $14 at this time, is going to be applied to each one of the lots that are platted and already have been platted by the action, and those revenues would eventually end up with the rural fire district. And if there's something that changes because there's improvements on the lots, then that could be something added. But as far as I know right now, they're just going to be subject to the basic assessment for the rural fire district.
Well, seems logical to me. I don't have any questions.
That said, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 11-03-2017, annexation to the Superior Rural Fire District of the Rock Springs Minor Subdivision.
I second that motion.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
So the planning troops are going to exit and leave you all to have a nice conversation while we go pile everything up together and bring it down for our next public hearing at 10:30. So we have a few things to bring down and get ready and stuff. So okay, we'll do that. And this has to be followed with the recorder. So we'll do that, but there's some interesting developments that generic language. The very get-go is that we called this a planned unit development, so that it was fluid, things could change along the way of the process, so that we're not getting caught off guard where, hey, this is what we proposed and you're not doing that, so therefore withdraw it and start over. We wanted to try to make this have at least a little bit more flexibility to some degree, to be able to look at this and give consideration along the process if some things were changing in there. Things did change in there, and Frank wants to expound, but basically there was a major downturn in lots and even developments. I think I don't think any one of you were a commissioner when we technically pre-platted almost 700 lots in the county. We gave conditional approval for over 700 lots, and to date, only I think one of those subdivisions have ever been finally platted. So we had a lot of proposals, had a lot of interest, but we didn't have a lot of getting to the finish line. So I'm glad to say we're getting close to the finish line today. Phase 1A ended up with very similar conditions. I think I was able to scratch my head and almost come up with a couple more. We ended up with 51 for the Phase 1A. In part, that was done because if there's going to be a phase development up there and you're going to go to the next phases, you really want to try to marry up the conditions, especially the homeowners association and the covenants, and bring that into where both sets of phase 1A, phase 1B, if they go with that second phase and everything else, that it's a unit and the people all consider everything as a unit, and you don't have this group contending with that group and that group going to their, what they think is their property to go through that. So that had some real bearing on the plat and the review this week of assisting that certain things are shown on that plat. So at that point in time, we were giving 2 or 3 years.
3,
3?
2013.
Okay, 2 years. So the conditional approvals at that time that had been by the county were usually valid for a period of 2 years. The legislature changed along the way and said that you should just generically make conditional approvals for 3 years or to be negotiated with the county commissioners. That language was not in the subdivision regulations that Shyrock was proposed under, therefore it was not appropriate to negotiate some 10-year extension for Shyrock. Therefore, you have seen 2 sets of extensions for Shyrock and even some last-minute kind of generic extension here to get us to this point. But I do think that we're covered, and I don't think that we have developed any exposure in this process. In 2013, there was also a proposed modification, and that was to allow the tow-behind units and the park model units. There was a number of conditions that, very few conditions, there was only 5 at that point in time, that would incorporate that into the process. It had to be also incorporated into the covenants that they were doing there. And I will make one notation about that right now, because partly it came to my mind, is that I have asked that there be a clarification in the covenants that says you can't occupy the park models on a year-round basis. That wasn't really a condition that was set forth in all the process. It was understood, we talked about it, we had that discussion, but we didn't clarify that in the covenants, that somebody cannot stay there after the November 30th. So anyway, I asked to get that incorporated into the covenants, and it's in there. So I think it's just gonna help us, because I don't want either sets of, I mean, you can do what you want to, but I don't want somebody coming to the commissioners and going, hey, that guy's there December 15th, and, you know, you better tell him to leave. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be the park model police, I guess. If you want to enter into a agreement with the sheriff's department, that's fine. In March 3rd of 2016, and this has become irrelevant to the most extent. There was a proposal to convert from a public sewer system to some on-site sewer systems, and that would have reduced the first phased by, do you remember, Frank, was it 3 lots or 2? I don't, there's the sewer lots that we,
I don't recall.
I don't recall what it was, and we didn't bring that down either. But anyway, it wouldn't have been 29 lots because every so often there was a lot that the sewers were gonna get pumped to, and so it would have been less. But anyway, that concept was changed when Gale and et al. Would have took interest into the subdivision, and I think it's pertinent, but maybe you can tell me when you effected an agreement about the subdivision. Do that? I don't quite remember.
October 3rd of 16.
October 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm not sure, but they have me have uncomfortable meetings. I don't know. I'm sorry, but we all met in my lower office down there, and we're all around the table, and we were there because they wanted to know about the subdivision and not really Frank's word about the subdivision. And we all sat there, and there was a very long, uncomfortable pause where nobody was speaking. And so I said, well, let me give you my opinion about this whole thing, because I always can expound and make words and stuff. So anyway, just one of the small highlights along the way.
For clarification, Tim, the people need to be moved out by November 1. That's a condition of the plat or a condition of
November
the covenants?
30th. November 30th.
On November 30th is
It's 30th.
covenants or plat, or part of the,
It's going to be both. Yeah, that's what we've incorporated into both. So. Okay, so the 2016, there was 10 conditions. There were a number of them that is applicable to the process today. Conditions that can be affected by the governing body will be faced on the plat. Remember me writing that? No, I don't remember like that. I've been looking all over for that statement because.
Found it.
Yeah. Hey, it's right there. Thank you. Okay, so I don't know. I put down here that easements for stormwater and Plat. I can't believe I didn't have that before, but anyway, these conditions have been met in the process and stuff. They presented a final plat application on October 25th. That is germane to the discussion because they had an extension. Where's the dang killing? Their extension was to, help me, Candace.
What was that?
The extension was to the 27th.
Oh, for the dates of this last one? Yeah, the 27th.
So they needed to compile, put everything at us by the 27th.
Right.
Sean Rowland is in jury duty today. He cannot be here for the meeting, or he can't even call in, which he thought maybe he could do. But Sean Rowland from Territorial Engineering is their principal contact. He is not an engineer, but he has started from the beginning with Frank on this project. And we exchanged emails in a format that said there has been substantial movement and effort on the part of the developers to get us the information that we need. Therefore, in my opinion, we don't need another little extension issued by the commissioners for a few more days. We were really getting there. At that point in time, it's been a real challenge to collect the information that we need for this subdivision to reach final plat. So with that, if you had any just generic questions, then I will delve into all the nuances of what's going on.
So the park models, those are the little tiny houses you have out there right now? I drove up there. Okay, and so then like the pull behind, is that like a pull behind camper trailer or?
In phase one, the only thing we're allowing are fifth wheels and Class A motorhomes. As part of phase two, we will have a special section set aside for bumper pulls and Class Cs. The reason we did that
What's
is.
a Class C?
Class C is the one that has the bed and stuff that comes over the cab.
Oh, okay.
And so it sits, Class A's have the flat front, Class C's have the bed
Mm-hmm.
over. Frankly, the average age of a Class A owner is 72 years old, and we didn't want to get into a situation where we had a young family with 5 kids and 3 dogs pull up in a bumper pole that they spent $20,000 on next to an $800,000 motorhome, and they let the kids and the dogs out and they're running, and then we've got people complaining. So as part of phase two, we'll have a section set aside.
for that.
We'll have a playground area and everything for young families, and we just think that's the right way to do it. So that's why we did it that way.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because I, knew it was a motor coach, and pulled up there and here's these little tiny houses and.
I'd love, actually, we just finished setting up a couple of them in the last couple of days.
Yeah,
Love for you
they
to
were in
come
the
out and
process.
look at
I'd
them.
love to come out and look
Yeah,
at
the
them.
inside of
Yeah.
them is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
they're-
actually, if you go to our website, shyrockmt.com, we just produced a new 7-minute video
Oh.
that highlights the county. We took we had drone footage shot up and down the county.
Oh,
And it talks about, Dick's on there quite a bit, talking about the park itself. There's some footage from inside the units. So there's a lot, and like I said, it's a 6 or 7 minute video. It's
What is
very
it
well done.
again?
Shyrockmt.com.
And if you want to get into those park modes, I'll just give you one of my cards. And
Oh,
you can-
okay. Yeah, I would
call
love
and
to.
meet you guys out there.
Candace was saying she wanted
See
to go
inside.
check them out. Yeah, that would be great.
They're nothing like the ones you see on TV.
No.
Oh, I don't even
I
see
opened
the
the
ones on
door and
TV.
walked in and went, oh my Lord, I could live here.
Yeah, yeah, they look
True,
really
and they both
nice.
have lofts.
Mhm.
Upstairs, it's just
Yeah,
wide
these are
open.
the ones
I was
that
shocked too.
don't have
Yeah, the kitchen is nicer than the kitchen in my house.
The fluidity of the, okay, who's the? Make sure that it's coming down. So, a practical part of the process is that Ricky. You get on this, Mary? This is really good. These were actually plotted this morning. I reviewed this plot about 10:30 last night and was trying to catch all of the last little things, but it's been an interesting process. Partly because this plat has been out there for 10 years. Plat has actually been out there for 10 years, and that creates some challenges. Today, I'm going to suggest to you that that you take an action that is not going to physically sign the plat today, but that we will do an action that will work on this plat to allow the next steps and what we're doing. And it's on very little much on their part other than these errors on the subdivision plat that, okay, Chris, I'm sorry. We agreed that this is all Shyrock from the bottom.
Yep.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I heard.
We agree.
I heard.
We agree, okay. So, the most important thing about this plat is that we all agreed, but somehow didn't really get the message to Ricky Hagedorn, the surveyor, that motor coach was one word. I've always used it, and I hope you will back me up, Frank, that we agreed that motor coach was gonna be one word.
Yes.
We had a discussion about that a long time ago. And so I have continually in all of these documents written motor coach is one word. I thought we sent it out, I thought we got it out there, but there are 5 references to motor coach on these 2 pages that are 2 words. I think it really makes a generic headache for a little bit for the clerk and recorder, but majorly for the title company, because Ricky would have to sign and record a correction affidavit to say that it's one word. And every time they do a title report, they're gonna have to hang that stuff on it. And it's just gonna be a world pain. So, we're gonna look at some, I've just suggested to Ricky that I said, let's just change it at this time. I believe that the developers are comfortable with it, so, that's kind of where we're at this time to, for the consideration. So we've got the big parts of this. I'm too fixated on that to really talk to you about all the things that I should be talking to you about. For the final plat, we needed DEQ approval, and we have that. We have engineering reports that the as-built roads, that the as-built of the water system. There is a public water supply well here. It runs along a roadbed up to here. This entire public water supply, Frank worked on that public water supply 3-4 while ago.
There was. The backbone of that was put in probably in 11. And MDEQ wouldn't, I don't know which one it was, but anyway, we didn't get approval to do the 8-inch well, and that's what held that up. We didn't hook up the 8-inch well to that system until probably 3 years ago.
So there's a well here that supplies a small community, non-public water supply for the Rock Springs. Frank had that system put in, and so they don't drill wells up on that hill. Frank was welcome to the wonderful world of hydrology, and just by chance decided that a test well would be pertinent up here more in the flat, not even up on there, and that test well produced
half a gallon a minute at 600 feet.
So obviously it was not going to work for this whole process. He went down here, and I've seen the pump test that they were pumping that well at over 100 gallons a minute. So it's a high producing well, has a lot of capacity to it. And so that's been connected to the water system up there. With the current principal developers being involved with that, we went back to the public sewer system. I really don't have I could have brought you a number of pictures. I think I was on site probably 15 or more times for the installation of the public sewer system out there. Sorry, I work for the DEQ. I don't trust them at all. I am totally convinced that I can tell them that everything was put in right out there. And there was a few things that we had to make some judgment calls on the ground, so I just extended myself and did that. So this sewer system ends up principally at this intersection here and goes around and picks up all of the lots in here that are they're coming down to this point. The sewer system then goes through a road cut that's through here, which I'm not even seeing there very well, but anyway, there's basically clearing down here. Then in this whole area down here, and if you probably noticed that it was cleared down there, that's where the pressure dose public sewer system is located down there. And I'm totally impressed of the contractor that put that in. That guy, he knew his stuff. He was doing a good job and very willing to call me up and say, you need to come and look at this, and I accommodated and did. So I'm very comfortable that we've got a first-class public sewer system in there to serve this subdivision. They have extended out to all of these lines. The part of the process is that 2 lots are routed to an individual septic tank, and that septic tank then doses to the system. So really, there's only a water component that goes to that sewer system. It's kind of unique in that point, but anyway, it's all installed and been out there and completed at this point. So that was one of the major efforts and one of the last real significant parts of that, other than then they you recall, Frank, did I think we agreed to chip sealing the surface of the roads, double shot chip seal.
Yes.
Then you said, gee, I found out that paving is about as economically feasible as.
If you take into consideration that the longevity of the paving is probably a better thing.
They received a road variance to pave to that point there, and the rest of it could have been chip seal or whatever that, we did issue that variance. The current developers, they extended themselves and paved completely around the whole loop. So it's become a moot point because the whole thing is paved now. So that was a very desirable effort on their part to finish that off. So the covenants, I believe, in order. We've had them, I've read them several times recently, and we've made some few minor changes to those. We have a subdivision guarantee report.
No. You can't sign that.
We'll be calling on Chris here.
And Lorna will be here all day.
Oh, okay. So one important thing that cost them all probably more than you'd care to believe is that we got into a row with the DEQ about the well isolation zone. Again, I can't leave it alone that I've worked there. I said it was gonna be on the plat. They would not reapprove the water system and re-up it, because if you don't get it completed in 3 years, then they'll stick it to you and say, we want to redo it again and look at it. And so that did happen, but they finally bought off on preparing a well isolation zone easement document that had an exhibit on it, but I knew whatever we did, it was not going to match what was going to be on the plat. So anyway, I've reworked that, and we'll get that filed. Chris would be signing that, and then we'll forward that on to the state so that they can add it to their files. And that is about the only cleanup stuff that I think we have with the state. We have engineers' reports. They've certified the roads. They has-built the water system with the DEQ, and we even have that information back. It's pretty rare to see that. That was a good move to do that.
So consent and plat, we need that one too, right?
Yes, we need a consent plat. Sorry, but I didn't bring that up before. But we can work on that before. As far as the paperwork goes, that's kind of the only thing that's pending and hanging out there is consent plat. So, questions? You have a question about the process?
No, it looks really nice. It's gonna be really nice. Go up there and look at it. And
Oh, it's a great addition.
It's gonna be,
It is.
yeah.
It is. It'll bring a lot of things into this little town, and I think most of them are good.
Mhm.
Use the
Yeah.
grocery stores, and,
Mhm.
you know, it's. This industry is so huge down in Arizona and Southern California and all over down there, really, Florida. It's shocking to me that it hasn't really taken hold more up here for just summertime use. But it will now.
Just like, there's a lack of inventory up here, isn't it? So-
Yeah, exactly.
The methodology for arriving at a final plat is typically the surveyor prepares it, Ricky has signed it, and beyond that, we do not have other signatures. The next signature should be going to the examining land surveyor. And then so all of the signature blocks along here are yet to be affected. And today, we don't have a county attorney, we don't have a clerk recorder, and we don't have a treasurer. You have a planner, he
Yeah.
showed up for work
So,
today.
but besides that, we're right there.
Just other than those little minor signatures. Dang, we're close. So, with these things out there and everything else, whether you want to wait for Roman to do any further, I suppose we should, but with that, I've prepared a potential motion for you to consider for putting this in a position that I believe is defensible. I'm always concerned about that. But that we can finish off this process, and the practical side of it, of what would happen would be that the surveyor, Ricky Hagedorn, would make these corrections to the plat, whether the developers sign sooner than later, but then the next step is taking the corrected plat to Janie, be getting it up to her. We typically mail that, and she would mail it back, and I'm presuming that Ricky and Chris would have signed by then, and then it's just an in-house process where the next, typically, I don't know that there's any statute to that, other than I know that the county attorney needs to certify to you that she's examined the plat and that she's accepted it. And I don't think, we couldn't probably possibly get that today. So that kind of takes you out of the process for signing the plat if you can't have your county attorney certify to you that she's examined and looked at. I'm not sure that that's in statute, but that's so well accepted is that we're certainly not going to deviate from that. So with that, I put together a potential motion that it's my thought process that you do not need to meet in a formal meeting setting at a formal time that's necessarily recorded. I will extend myself though for whoever signs the plat first of the commissioners. I would really suggest you use the same date as the first person. If you don't all sign on the same day, please use the same date. That would really help out the process. But if we don't sign all on the same date and the clerk has to attest to that, it's going to be a little, don't want to do that. So, that's, like I say, unless you have any other questions or we need to have any more further discussion about this,
Go ahead, Tim.
what's that?
Keep going.
If you want to consider that motion, then I have a follow-up motion for you that we would probably put this into further processing with a couple of more.
Anybody here with any further comment before we decide on a motion? Patty?
Well, I would move to accept and approve the Shyrock Motor Coach Community Phase 1A plat after duly reviewing the final plat application, proposed covenants, subdivision guarantee title report, Department of Environmental Quality approvals, engineering reports with minor corrections pending signatures of elected officials and the Mineral County planner on November 3rd,
Including a consent to plat.
including the consent to plat.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Would the secretary like to review the motion and repeat it? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I'm not sure whether it's appropriate to make a motion that we hereby move to continue with the process and give final approval and signature to the Shyrock plat. I mean, I think that's captured it. I don't, but there was another motion that you're gonna be signing this into the future, not today.
Because of the
Because of all
attorney,
of the
yeah,
conditions that haven't been, or, situations that haven't been met. It's not so much conditions, it's just
Mm-hmm.
physically not having people here to sign the plat, so.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would advise that you just make a quick motion that this will be, that the Shyrock Community, Motor Coach Community Phase 1 will be continued for signatures. And just, you're covered.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second it.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's
Jim.
taken quite a while,
Jim.
but you folks have been as wonderful to work with as a guy could ever hope. And I very much appreciate all your patience. You definitely have a really good core group of new owners, so. I think
Well, we
you'll do
appreciate you coming up with this and putting the time and the effort. It has been a long time, Frank, with it. I think it's gonna show into the future, I really do.
I do too.
Nice little community. And we're glad that you guys are around to continue this.
Thank you. We're real excited about it. For the record, my smartphone will not make motor coach one word. You need to tell him that. True story, I can go and delete, and I type it again.
How about Seahawks? Is that one word?
Only if you're on opposite side of the stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
That's 2 words.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
Don't have people here for public comment, so welcome.
I know. Well, I can't be here at 1. And I did watch the video from last week. And I just wanted to clear up a few things. I know Ellen was very angry at Mick Casper for leaving his post. The way it sounded to me, and I don't know, you'll have to let me know, or she'll have to let me know, it sounded like everyone thought he just up and left and the jail was left unmanned, and that is not correct. So I don't know if that's the impression you all
You know,
had.
that's the impression I got, and I had wondered myself
Well, I'm
what the
here-
details were, if he actually left when the sergeant was there and thought, I'm still leaving somebody to take care of the inmates and the dispatcher who's here, and I'm putting it on the guy who's ticking me off. Or did he just leave somebody hanging and walk out the door? And so you're saying that he did not leave anybody really hanging?
Well, correct. I mean, it came down to an argument, and the situation is a new order came down to detention, not to dispatch. When a female comes in, I would change out the female, he would man 911. He did not feel comfortable with manning 911. Me, not having ever been trained or taught, I did not feel comfortable with changing out a female. So because of the lack of training on both ends, when the female came in, luckily Sergeant Eller was in-house. I had him come up. He was going to help facilitate all of that, but because of Mick's uncomfortableness with how everything went down, and he didn't have her changed out first thing because of nobody really knowing the policy. I mean, he kind of knew, I knew nothing. And so he said, here are my keys. I can't do what you're asking me to do. Here are my keys. So that's basically what ended up happening. But AJ was his supervisor. So he basically because that is his chain of command. AJ is the supervisor. So he basically gave AJ his keys and said, the jail is yours. So AJ was there until 4 a.m. When I got off shift. We were both there until 4 a.m. And then he called in another deputy who came in at 4 a.m. who did the 4 to 10 a.m. shift. So it's not like the way they were making it sound was that, boom, there was no detention officer in the jail.
He just locked
Just
somebody into a
walked out,
chair and
yeah.
walked out.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
And I think Ellen thought the same thing, maybe. I mean,
And I think that's how angry she was at Mick. I don't think she knew the full circumstances. And I know Mick may not be very verbose in what he says. He's very short and to the point and kind of thing. So I don't know that Ellen ever really even knew. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Okay.
The jail was never unmanned.
Okay.
It always was taken care of. So I don't know if there was any county, concern over that. That didn't happen. Next, I wanted to address the fact that Ellen came down here under the auspices to let you know that we were down to 3 detention officers. Granted, by the time she got here, it was 2, but she was on the agenda to let you know we were down to 3 detention officers. We have been under 3 dispatchers for over a year and a half. We have been doing 24/7. Poor Ronnie has had to train 4 different dispatchers. She finally got 2 hired at the end of last year. We're talking 11 months ago, after having trained for 2 months. So she started over a year ago. This was all the blow up from the strike that we had last year. So we were at 6, we were down to 5, 1 quit, we got 1 back. This didn't work. She got upset. We've been down to 3. So Ronnie got to train Brandy and a woman named Erin at the same time last fall. Released right after, I believe, the holidays. So boom, all of a sudden we're back up to 5. We had a month of 5 people. 1 dispatcher decided to quit. A few months later, Brandy decides to change position. So now we're back down to 3, and it took forever for the ad to get in the paper. So then Ronnie trained Kayla Booth, who already had an application in Missoula for detention. Trained her. She was just about ready to be released. She goes to Missoula. So it took forever again for the ads to be placed in the paper. And Ronnie had told me at that time, her hands were tied, the ads weren't going to be placed until you placed them. So the ads weren't placed in the paper forever. Finally, we got Trudy in. I don't know that situation.
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't
We
want
weren't
to deal
holding
with
anybody
any
back
of that.
on advertising for needed position.
Well, we need advertisements all over again, because we still have Trudy, who is coming close to being released, not quite yet, but we're still down another one. The only reason the union hasn't gotten upset with the fact that Brandy's been filling in part-time is because she's saving us. We've been doing this for a year and a half. So I know Ellen was here to be a proponent for detention. I wish she had been a proponent for us as well. We're just all dying. If one of us leaves, there's going to be 2 of us leaving. And that may leave Ronnie by herself with new trainees. I don't know. One has had, I don't want to call it marital problems, but there are issues. We've both lost vacations this summer. I had family in from out of town for 2 weeks. I had 2 days off, 1 day this week, 1 day that week, and that was it. 6 hours, 6 days a week. I mean, you can't live like this. We're fighting it. We're trying to be brave. We may not be coming in and complaining all the time, but we're not getting people either for the same reason detention isn't getting their people. So when you make your considerations on talking about raising the level, I hope you're considering dispatch as well.
Oh, yeah.
we definitely.
Because I know every time we come in as a union, you will not give dispatch and detention anything because you state that you have to give it to the rest of the county. I hope it's the same way. When you want to talk about detention, I hope it's for both of us.
Yes, it is. Yep.
We know that the jailers and the dispatchers need to be paid more, and they have a job that's tough. It's not 8 to 5 and off on holidays. It's 24/7. It's in, I call it the dungeon, Patty. Forgive me.
is.
There's no
Oh, it is.
windows.
No.
There's no way to get outside and walk your legs or have a cigarette. It's a critical job to emergency response. We all know that, and I would like to start addressing what kind of pay increase we can give you guys months ago, but for whatever reason, the
I know,
lawyers
finally-
haven't been able to get together, and then we did have a date, the union guy couldn't make it on short notice, and
Yeah,
you
he had
know
an
all that, but
emergency- he had an emergency MRI,
Yeah.
and I was just checking my emails. He's had 3 emails out to Dan Johns for dates since that date
Mm-hmm.
at the end of September. Finally, 2 days ago, we got a date.
mhm.
So it's just taken so long for that communication. It's an email. How can you not respond to an
Right.
email? That's just my own opinion. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We have a date for the 20th, and I know you're having this meeting this afternoon. I just wanted that to be placed on the books, that's my opinion. It needs to be dispatched. We're down, just like
Right.
detention. Granted, we're not down to 2,
Mhm.
but if something doesn't happen, we could be down to 1.
Mhm.
Just not a threat or anything. It's just
An
how
update.
life is going to happen.
Right,
Yeah,
And that's the sad part.
yeah.
yeah, no, we
Wow.
You can only do
definitely.
that for so long.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you doing that.
Yes, we appreciate all of your hard work.
Yeah, you've been here a long
We
time, and
really
you've
do.
always
And
been
we-
there when they needed you, and also thanks for the courage coming in and speaking
Yes.
on the first topic regarding Mick. That was brave of you. Thanks for updating us.
Well,
on that.
I just heard it and it was like, she's really angry at him. I mean, instead of saying, hey, I'm not trained and I can't man a 911 phone, she was angry that he walked off the job, and it really wasn't, in my opinion, a walk-off. Granted, it wasn't a good thing, and no, he didn't give 2 weeks' notice, and I don't think he ever wants to come back.
So- Can you enlighten us on as to why the training is not happening?
We don't know. We just had our meeting yesterday with the sheriff where I think more of the policy aspect, which is not in writing yet, and maybe in writing by 1 o'clock, I don't know, still hasn't come down. I haven't been trained, and I have voiced my opinion that until I'm trained, and even then, if I get somebody, and I'm gonna use this as a really bad example, because I know you being from St. Regis, you probably know her better than anyone, but,
Oh, yeah.
okay, she's been in our jail. I've seen Vicky on the floor with inmates. I've seen Richard Brown, big Richard Brown, on the floor with inmates. I've seen Keith on the floor with inmates. I've seen Dent on the floor with inmates. I have a great back, I have a great neck, I have great shoulders. I do not want to be in that kind of a confrontation. And unless I can be told that either 1, I don't have to be, or 2, I'm gonna have backup right there, I don't want to
So
be in
there's
that
not an
situation.
officer
Well, an officer-
present when you're dressing them down or
Well, see,
doing
the
process
edict
or?
first came down was that the detention officer is bringing her in, I'm in 911, we switch.
Right.
And I'm in a room all by myself out in the
Oh,
hall.
right, because you're
2 doors
female.
away.
Right.
And I don't want that. So Randy came up with some kind of a solution. I really don't, I haven't seen it enacted, so I don't know if it'll work. I don't know how it's gonna work. But there might be a possibility where I don't actually even have to be right close to her. And a detention officer is at one door, I'm at the other door, both doors are open. Whether that works or not, I don't know. I haven't seen that happen. But again, I don't want to be on the floor tussling with
no.
anybody. And if I
Right.
feel
No,
uncomfortable, I don't want to be
shouldn't.
placed in that position.
No,
So that's all part of it. And just like I said, with Mick coming into 911, he's been okay with answering a 911 phone when I'm on a 911 phone, and he can hold them long enough till I can get over there. And that's okay. But to be in that room by yourself,
Right.
I've got a
Right.
female, what am I supposed to do with her? I can't chain her, I can't handcuff her, am I supposed to bring her out into a room with a camera when she's half dressed because a 911 is going off? You know, nothing just kind of worked really
Right,
well with
yeah.
all of it. So he had genuine concerns, and so do I. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that my opinion was heard, because I can't be
Yep.
there at 1.
We appreciate it.
And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so you've seen her, and when
Yeah.
she's
Oh, yeah.
angry,
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, the sheriff took a gun away from her last year.
Yep.
I mean, granted, she's not there anymore, but someone like that comes in, I'm sorry, that scares the bejeebers out of me.
Well, and there's that potential with anybody, but
Well, and I was told by a very intelligent gentleman the other day, you have to train for everything. You expect the 99%, but you have to know how to handle that 1%. I don't know how to handle that 1%. I don't.
okay. I was just curious about why the training wasn't going on.
Hasn't quite happened. We just had our meeting yesterday, so I hope they come in with great ideas today
Well, I
when
hope
they
they
come
do
in at
too.
1.
Nobody wants to see that jail shut down, I don't think.
No, none of us want to
It's
see
not
it
good
shut
for
down.
anybody, but
No, it's going to
I don't
cost.
know. I don't know what you do in a situation like that, you know.
Well, I hope you guys work on the budget. I hope you can work on
Well,
numbers.
yeah.
Well,
One of the
yeah,
things I
that's
did-
the other tough part, is that money's gotta come from
Right,
somewhere.
Well-
and
So-
the sheriff has got to make the decision of
Right.
what's the most important.
Well, and that was one of the things, comment that I wanted to make also. So last year when we were in the union, I know Roman's main concern was trying to bring the lower ones up closer to those of us who have been here for 5 and 6 years. I think it should actually be the opposite. When we went and did this thing, when we went and did the research, we talked to you about, how all the other counties kind of lined up. There's another county who is small like us, who starts their beginning people out at like $11.75 or $11.95 an hour. So that's like almost $12. So that's what a beginning person starts out at. In a year, they jump to over $14 an hour. So instead of bringing that lower person up, I know that pay is horrible, but if you give them the knowledge that once they're trained, once they've been released, once they've been to the academy, they're going to be up at almost a living wage. It's so much better
Give them
than
an incentive to.
2 of them that are just so close, and I'm going to be here for a year and I'm going to gain 25 cents or 50 cents or 75 cents. That's not incentive. The incentive is the higher after you've been here a year and trained.
Well, yeah.
And for the amount of trainees that we've had this past 2 years,
Yeah.
that takes a toll on everybody. It takes a toll on everybody who was in detention to try to train the new people. And Ronnie, like I said, she's had 4 people.
Yeah, and if I was misunderstood, I wasn't trying to get new people closer to you. I was trying to get lower paid people. That's why 50 cents for everybody and 70 cents for those I was trying to address the initial advertising thing problem, like you said, nobody wants to come to work for $9.50 an hour, so I was
Right.
trying to I was still giving the old people a raise that have been here a while,
Right.
a little bit more to get the initial applicant job up, but then to go back to people that have been loyal. That's why I threw in that one-time longevity for people who have been here for 5, 10.
Yeah, and you realize that only went for one person. That was only Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie and Keith Miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't know that when I set it up.
Yeah.
I thought that you would be
I
here 5
thought-
years.
Yeah, well, I thought that the wording, and I was wrong,
Mhm.
I thought that the wording was when somebody reached that 5-year mark, not when at ratification of the contract. I thought that was an incentive.
Oh.
Once you got to 5 years, you got a little extra.
Oh,
When you get to 10
But-
years, you get a little extra, but it was
but
just.
see, that's
at
always an option
contract
every time we get together,
Well,
yeah.
that's gonna be an
But
argument.
I couldn't make it be built in because the problem we have here is that if we build it in and make it be a future expense, then when we get to that future time, we find out that the budget,
Yeah.
Might not
We
have
didn't
the
get-
money.
Something
Yeah.
has happened, yeah.
so we have to
turns
kind of
out-
go.
As it turns out, there's only one more of us. Because
Well-
we have, everybody is
Well, we can
so
talk
great.
about that again this time.
Yeah.
We will, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
It's,
that's kind of my feeling. I'm happy that you're bringing these guys up, but
Mhm.
this one I think has to be a higher jump for
Right.
the,
Give them an
oh,
incentive.
give them that incentive.
oh yeah, we want to reward your, you've been here a long time, I hear what you're saying, but.
Well, and it's not even really us. I mean, somebody who wants to come in at only 10.50 or 11 or whatever you end up making that, knows that they're gonna get that $250, $350,
Mhm.
$5 jump after a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, gentlemen, but I've got to go work.
Are you going
All
to
right.
work? Okay,
Yeah.
thanks again for
Thank
your
you.
comment.
Thank you.
And thanks for all you do, Patty.
Sure.
We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
We don't say it very often, but we do appreciate it.
And you are very articulate on the radio. Did everybody get a chance to sign it so we can have who all is in attendance correct on the minutes? And if you haven't signed it, Lori's got the sheet here. And it's 2 minutes after 1, so I guess we'll start here. We're people that may or may not know what's transpired and what we're hoping to accomplish, and maybe the county attorney can start off.
Sure. A couple weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that we were down to 3 detention officers. So I asked Casey to put it on the agenda maybe about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, for last Friday. And then Friday morning, as I was coming into work, I got a text from my coworker saying that we had another detention officer leave, so we were down to 2. So at that time, when we had the meeting last Friday, I recommended to the commission that we close the jail. I thought it was unsafe for the employees and unsafe for the inmates to try to run a jail with just 2 people. They agreed. We did, immediately after the meeting, Under Sheriff Boone and I contacted Sanders County. They were wonderful. I still have to write an order, but they're wonderful about willing to take our detainees. We only had to send 1 up there. It was a gentleman I was not willing to release. We did release a couple people OR. None of them had any violent offenses. 2 of them were first felony drug offenses, drug possession offenses. Actually, I have to correct that. I think 1, they were intent to distribute. Want to be accurate there. And then we had 4 women who were Department of Corrections and several men who were Department of Corrections, which means we were housing them when they have shortage of beds in any correctional facility, and they pay us to house them. And same with Highway Patrol, we have money coming in to house them. So we only really had 1 person who we had to ask Sanders to take care of for us. So from last Friday until I think Tuesday or Wednesday, we had the 2 detention officers running 12-hour shifts, no days off. Until I think Tuesday or Wednesday, we had our last detainee leave. Sheriff Bauer gave the detention officers the rest of the day off, and then we tried to come up with a schedule. But there's going to be times with just 2 detention officers, there's going to be times when there's no one in the jail. So if we're booking people in, we're releasing them. If we're booking in people for felonies or for misdemeanor, like partner family member assault, because that's the one that comes to my head, that on a partner family member assault, you have to see the judge. If you get arrested on a Friday night for assaulting your partner, you can't bond out. You'll have to wait until Monday to see the judge. So what do we do with them? The people who either are allegedly committed a felony or committed a misdemeanor that they can't bond out on and right away. So that's where Sanders County comes in. And then we have the whole dilemma of transportation. Kathleen has attended the meetings too, our clerk of court, regarding how are we going to have inmates or defendants appear for court, district court, by VisionNet. We have 2 of our inmates who are over in Missoula right now, but they're on Missoula holds. They had warrants out of Missoula, but we still have pending cases with them here. So it's a big deal. It's a very difficult situation. But it was my recommendation to the council that with 2 detention officers and with Under Sheriff Boone letting me know that they had advertised and had no applicants, I just didn't think it was a safe thing to keep the jail running with 2 people. It just wasn't safe.
Yeah, so we're at the juncture where in the last year, we've lost 8 jailers, and 1 or 2 might be in the room today, and we're trying to address the pay side of it, but also there's an issue now of some people feel like they're not appreciated or valued in that position. So we kind of need, in my opinion, we commissioners need to find a way to make it so that people want to be retained here for the money they get, but then we are counting on the sheriff and undersheriff to make changes in their so that the employees feel valued and appreciated over there. It's kind of a two-pronged thing, in my opinion. We do have, we just did our budget July, and we were trying to accommodate with a raise for employees. The employees that were non-union received it already. The sheriff's office is union, so we have to wait for a meeting date, which now the lawyers have gotten together, and we have one finally coming on November 20th to go through negotiations. But we haven't even been to that point yet, and we've already experienced the problem that the county attorney just described. So.
I got a question.
Judy.
So what will happen to your budget? Because you're not taking in your non-tax revenue, but you're still spending because, you got money from housing prisoners and that was part of your budget. But now does it cost you money to send them to Sanders County? So you're still spending but not taking in the revenue?
That's correct. It was the only real source of revenue in the department was when they would house prisoners from other agencies, the Department of Corrections or Missoula County if they were full, for example. Then we were receiving $62.50 a day from those other agencies. Now, if the arrest was Mineral County's own, they put in jail, there's no revenue from that, but there is revenue from the other jails or state entities that wanted to house them here.
How will that affect your other employees that are still there? Will there be money for that budget?
You mean the jailer, are you talking about?
Yeah, since I don't know how much the non-tax revenue was of your income. You won't be having it, but you'll still be spending.
Right. Well, again, because they're union, we can't really do anything with those employees until we go through the union. But in the meantime, because we're hoping this is only a temporary thing, we're going to try to get a jail back. But in the meantime, they'll be taking in bookings when they can, and possibly the sheriff has decided that they can maybe be doing a good thorough scrubbing of the jail. The jail has never really been totally vacated since 1994, and so those two jailers. Go ahead, Tom. You can tell what you kind of had.
Yeah, so they're in the process of doing that right now, and once that's complete, then paint it too. It's in dire need of a good paint job too. So they're in the process of doing that. In addition to that, some of the other duties they'll do, if we have a felony arrest at someone that needs transported to Sanders County, then that'll be their responsibility too. So in order to get them spun up to do that, of course, we've got to give them some training. So last night they did taser training. Next week they'll do some pistol training to get qualified on that. And then we're going to get a policy from other departments to do transports and Mineral County-ize it and get them set up to do that. So we're good to go there. So they're in the process of doing that now. Yeah. Yep.
If you hired 4 new people tomorrow, how long would it take them to be able to do their duty?
If we hired 4 tomorrow.
If you did, yeah.
If we did, I'd say I'd like to give them at least 2 weeks to make sure they're spun up to do that. The other issue too then is they've got to be within a year, go to the academy. We've had to do some extensions, but I would say probably within a couple of weeks we'd probably have them up and running to facilitate that, get them going.
What are all your funding sources for the jail?
Well, we get money on the tax roll there. You probably all got your tax notices there. Public safety, that's what goes to the sheriff's office for the law enforcement side, the dispatch side, and the care of inmate side. So on top of that, when prisoners are housed, then we get that $62.50 a day. So that's revenue on top of the tax dollars.
So that's something else I want to address. When we do get the jail back up and running again, we're going to really bump that up. We're going to look at $80 to $90 for each inmate. Because quite frankly, you know, if we had to take someone to Missoula right now, we'd have to pay about $100 a day. Sanders County is 69 something a day. So looking at the standard, you know, across the board, we were actually one of the lower charging jails in the state. So, I mean, I was aware of that, and that was going to happen anyway. So,
I'm just trying to take notes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Casey's gone, she had a sick kid, so I'm trying to take notes and
Okay.
listen. And
Don't you fill out like a contract
Yeah,
with the
right.
feds and you
Well-
have to show all your
well,
I
costs?
just wanted to look at
yeah, like with the state, we have a contract with them, and I think the last time it was signed last fall, whenever it was $62.50, and that was definitely something I was gonna redo and renegotiate. Because it's quite
Well,
frankly, that's too low.
So, back before you were here, Tom, one of the reasons that it was that low though too was when we had the issues with prisoners leaving through the hole in the roof. We didn't have any prisoners for quite some time, and in conversations with Boone and Ronnie, we decided to leave it low so that we could attract prisoners back after the jail was fixed up.
So your hope then was that they'd come back after escaping and turn themselves
Well,
back
maybe
in?
not those same ones. We didn't want those guys.
Right,
Yeah.
sure. No, that makes sense. You know, one of the things that I've initiated with that is we've got alarm systems in the ceiling of the jail. So I have my dispatchers do checks on those at least once a week to make sure they're functional and working properly, so that if someone does get up there, but we've also reinforced the ceiling, so hopefully that'll never happen again. So that's something else that we're asking the jailers, the two that are left. Boone and I have walked through there and, identified some things that some not structural, but some of the things where the plaster's coming off and, repairing that too. Just go through the whole jail and get it back up to where it should be. The other thing that will make it a lot easier for us to do then, once someone books out, you go into that cell that they were in. If there's graffiti on the walls, and they get charged with criminal mischief. It's not legal to do that stuff. Right now, there's so much on there that it'd be very difficult to say, Jim Bob, you did this because you were in here, because there's been so much, there's so much there now. So it does need a good paint job, and that'll help us with that as well.
How is this affecting the taxpayers of Mineral County without having a jail? Other than, is it going to affect the budgets? Is it going to affect taxes? What is our status with the situation as it is?
So we talked about generating revenue in the jail, which it could be a misnomer because depending on how many inmates we have, it's still a cost. So, for example, and I'll get to the bigger effects because Kathleen could probably speak to that. The biggest problems in not having a jail are going to be the inconvenience for law enforcement, the inconvenience for judges, and if we don't have one, we're going to incur the cost of transportation, housing. So when we had a jail, so for example, last year with the jail and with the revenue and with the tax dollars, we actually, the jail was a loss of $74,000. In other words, it didn't make money. Sometimes there might be a year where maybe we break even. In 15, it was a loss of 149, and in 16, it was a loss of 80. However, those losses don't. This is the contrast. If we don't have a jail, and we just use the same number of 5 Mineral County inmates to be housed elsewhere, it's going to be $180,000. So, what's the lesser of two evils? Going $74,000 with a loss here by having a jail and the convenience of the jail here, or having 5 inmates all year long elsewhere and paying $180,000. And we kind of arrived at 5 because on the day the jail closed, there was 15 inmates and 7 were DOC, so that's not ours. Maybe 3 were about highway patrol, not ours, so that left 5. So we just kind of used the number of 5. Now, if that goes up exponentially, then the numbers go up because, like Tom pointed out, like Missoula might be $100 a day, Sanders at 69, we just use an average of, say, $85 a day to board them. And then we're gonna have the cost of transportation, paying a deputy or a jailer to drive them. So basically, to me, it's still, even though the jail doesn't always make money, it still is less of a loss, and it's a good tool for the sheriff to have and for the public to have and the judges. And Kathleen, anything else you want to talk about the problems? He asked what kind of problems are we going to have by not having a jail, and it's not just the...
Well, all those are problems. With our technology, we can alleviate some of them in district court, and I can only address district court. But some of our appearances can happen by video. We still have transportation issues. Let's say our person is housed in Sanders County. The detention center doesn't necessarily have video, so they have to be transported to the courthouse in Sanders County. And our judges can, either from Missoula or from here, we can try and schedule that appearance. Now, when it's an initial appearance, when they're initially arrested, that kind of thing, it's going to be a scheduling nightmare. But as far as after they're in the system and we're going through the district court appearance schedule, which, as we all know, is a slow process, we can schedule all of that with our video equipment. So that, other than some scheduling issues, should alleviate some of our transportation problems.
But in fairness, Kathleen, you know, like I do, that all of that is just dependent on the other court not being in session. I mean, the realistic effect of it is you got to have a detention center. If you're going to have a sheriff's office, you got to have a detention center. It's just they run together. If you're not going to have one, you don't need the other. You just contract it out and make Missoula do your law enforcement, make them do your detention. One or the other, because you're going to face liability issues, the transportation issues that you're talking about become nightmarish. And the idea, if it's a non-felony, they get booked and released. Well, that's good, but that puts you out in potential liability too, because if it's a drunk driver, they're drunk, they get back in a car, they kill somebody, then it comes back to your head. It seems to me that the bigger issue is, and from what I listened to and listening to the last meeting, there's been a systematic failure in the detention center somehow. That we've lost these 8 detention officers' wages, whether it be wages, the administration, or whatever. The key is to get it back on track, because at one point in time it can generate enough money and essentially pay for itself, which is ultimately what it is. You as the county commissioners have the ability. You can hire an administrator. You could do that. You could contract it out. You could look at detention. I mean, I talked to Sanders County, Missoula County. Right now there's a tremendous need for housing of female prisoners. So maybe you can make an agreement where, Missoula runs it and they put their female population or something like that out, and then agrees to have the male population that you need in there or something like that, to where it's full all the time. To me is, while law enforcement protects the public, the problem with that is once you take someone into custody, you're responsible for their care and custody. And that becomes more of a responsibility in a lot of ways than the law enforcement on the outside, because of that responsibility and duty to them. And so, to me, is you got to start with getting it in a situation with, one, livable wages. Talking to Sanders County, they're starting their jailers out at $14 an hour. You can't have someone where Tom's forced to put them through the legal academy in a year, they get it, they're getting $10 an hour, and then they get done when they have that, their license, that's transferable, and they can go to Missoula and start at 19. And you can't put, I mean, you can't put people that are only able to get a job at, you know, $9, $10 an hour in a situation where have, I mean, literally such a responsibility, and frankly, it's a tough job. I mean, they're not dealing with the nice people of the society in general. A lot of times there are addiction issues, sickness issues. You know, you're in the jail too. It's not like you're walking in the woods. I mean, my belief is you got to get it back to operating and putting it in a system. You know, my understanding that from watching last, now one of the deputies is running the jail, and whether that's because that's the only one that can do it, I don't know. But you can't have a deputy that doesn't have experience in the management of a detention center trying to institute policies that he wouldn't know a policy for a detention center and that type of thing. And so I think it's, in my mind, critical. You have the authority, it's in the statutes, you can hire an administrator, you can contract, but you got to put together a plan here soon. And everybody knows there's overcrowding everywhere. Right now I was talking to Jason Kowalski, who runs Missoula. They're shipping people all the way over to past Glendive, just to house people. And so, I mean, having this vacant is like having, you know, a Hilton set up and having people banging on the door. And it just seems to me that
Why would they send them to Glendive and not here? That's pretty far away.
well, they just sent them away that day when I was talking to him. That's how far he's having to send them.
Because they're so full, everybody's so full, wherever they can get them.
And so, I mean, to me, it's, you know, you got to have attract someone that has the experience in the detention center that just is responsible for operating, because it's like you said, you're at 180,000. If you're at 5, to me, it's been, I would say our felony numbers, just in my experience, are down right now, maybe a little bit, but historically, I'd say it's probably closer to 10 at any time. So if we're double that, we're at 360, and instead, we could be only looking at 74,000 if we're operating. Plus, in addition to that, you get, if you're employing 5 people, that's 5 people in jobs that are spending money across the street in the restaurants, that are having their kids in the school, but you got to keep them here. And I mean, all the statutory authorities here to do it. It's, my understanding now we're down some deputies, so there's funding being saved there on it.
Dispatch is down too, I think. Dispatch is down too.
And so there's money available, but you got to spend a little bit of money to get it going. But the fact of the matter is, it's got to happen.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said, Lance, and especially with hiring. It'd be nice to find someone that has experience that can run it, because it's a huge responsibility. That with 7 deputies, to include the undersheriff and myself, to watch over the county, then to try to watch over the jail. In addition to that, it's pretty overwhelming, to be honest with you. Myself and the undersheriff, as you know, ran the jail for, what was it, 11 days or whatever when we were on strike last year, and holy smokes, that was an eye-opener to me. It brought some perspective to me as to what the jailers have to go through on a daily basis. And I think I said to Undersheriff Boone several times, there's no way that I would do this job for 10 whatever an hour. I mean, it's...
The other thing too is a funding issue. It's always that, but I was talking to Jason, there's certain things that obviously there's a levy that could be put out, but also there's a special, he was saying, and I don't know this part of it, but gas tax fund that could be instituted, county-wise. And that may be an issue of where you can have it, but you build it, they'll come. But I don't think right now we're qualified for federal prisoners, are we?
Yeah.
Are we? So I'm like, you know.
are?
and
You
so-
had to have 2 jailers at a time.
Well, yeah, I mean, other than staffing, yeah, we couldn't do it right now, but
Oh, yeah.
if we were fully staffed.
What do you consider fully staffed?
6, is it 6? 6 jailers? To safely run it the way it should be ran?
And that would be federal
Yes.
prisoners.
Yes.
And
I
what's the
think-
capacity of the
28.
jail? 28 people can be in there?
Maximum.
Yeah.
You know, the gas tax, previous Sheriff Ornelas looked at the gas tax and brought it forward, and then after further research, I think the county attorney found in that law that that money can only be utilized for things like curbs and sidewalks within the city of the county. Is that, anybody else remember that one? I thought there was some
Well,
criteria.
We also have, I mean, emergency budgeting. I don't know how else you can call this anything but an emergency.
Well, they're gonna have to do emergency budget if they're gonna give more money than what's in their salary budget to the, if they decide to do that. Plus, you're not gonna have your anticipated revenue come the middle of your 50% of your year, but you probably already spent 50%, you only took in 30%, so you're gonna be having a problem there. I mean,
So the elephant in the room is raising taxes.
they can't raise the taxes without the people voting on it.
Well, I didn't say we couldn't, but what else are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, they need
Yeah.
right now,
Mr. Woodland.
Yeah, Lance sort of hit on one thing that I think is really important to remember here, first of all. And that is that for most of us, probably the biggest risk we face of serious injury or death is drunk drivers on the road. We all know the statistics in Montana, it's a big problem. And if we have a situation where we're not able to keep them off the road after we catch them, and I understand you're not going to hand them their keys back and drop them off at their cars, but if you're releasing them right away, and for that matter, somebody who's a repeat offender, who, if you release him, you wait till he's sober, you know he's going to be drunk in 6 hours again. That puts everybody in the community at risk. Nobody wants to see taxes go up. There's no doubt about that. And I understand it would have to be done by a levy, and that's probably a good thing. But by same token, we do know that the people in Mineral County in the past, when confronted with something that was very important to them, something where they saw that it was worth spending the money, and a key to that in part is convincing them that, and showing them first that if they put that money on the table, it's going to be well managed, they will vote yes. You can't just ask for it, you gotta show them it's gonna be well managed, you gotta show them you're gonna produce a result. But there's more than one levy has passed in this county since I've been here, and I've been a part of a couple of them. My role in it in part has always been to make sure what was promised happened, and it did. If you get the management issues straightened out and you can convince the community you're going to manage it right and get it well managed, it makes sense. Again, the biggest risk I face is going down that highway with somebody coming the other way that's had way too many. The newspaper article, and I don't know whether it's accurate or not, indicated that one of the people released was a fourth-time drunk driver. How much confidence do we really have?
He's in Sanders County.
Is he?
Jail, yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's a different animal, as long as he's someplace, rather than right back on the road. Yeah, I feel better about that. But that's a serious issue for all of the rest of us, so.
Well, not off of what John's just said too. I mean, your option is one of two. Is if you run it and operate it, and you only are essentially saying losing $74,000 this year, whatever, versus you're contracting it out, and at a low point, you're looking at $180,000 out of your pocket, or, you know, up to, the sky's the limit, depending on, you know, I-90 here is just, you know, it's a thoroughfare. And so you think 5, maybe, well, maybe 10, depending on the number of arrests. And so, you know, it's a lesser of two evils. And it's a better deal when you're having families working and living here and spending money here and putting their kids in school versus, you know, I can tell you personally that the idea of traveling with the inmates is one of the worst things you can do because the liability is so high. I've had cases where wrongful death cases involving transportation cases, and I love them because you have big insurance policies, but they happen all the time because look what we have. We have winter, and you have court weekly. And it's just, it's a natural problem, but you know, all of the authority is set forth for you guys to take action, to do it. But if you're not going to have a jail, then at least put it out on a contract, because at least there's people that are, I mean, that thing could be filled tomorrow by female DOC inmates, is my understanding from talking to several of the different counties before I came. Even contract, but do something. It can't stay like this. And it's sad that to me, it blew my mind to learn about this on the news last week and not have known a damn thing about it living here, that there was a problem. I mean, it seems like the cancer started several months ago, and then everybody just kind of let it fester until it blew up, and now we're, you know.
Well, this isn't something new. We've always had problems and being shorthanded. I mean, since I was a deputy here in the 90s, same stuff. And it's not just limited to the sheriff's office. I mean, look at all the people that have left the county in the last year to go to different jobs that pay better. And from what I'm hearing from most of them, that's what it is. It's money. There are some other issues that we've addressed and we are fixing, but it's, for most of the people that I've talked to, money.
Well, and that may be a big part of it, but certainly it just needs to be, lack of better, ran as a business, Tom. And
Yeah.
right now, I mean, we have maybe the biggest thing happening in this county that's happened in the last 30 years, and that is you got Idaho Forest Group looking at purchasing Tricon, who is a real major woods producer, and I mean, they were supposed to close, my understanding is November 1st, now it's November 15th, but I'd be damn nervous if I'm them purchasing this, and what kind of county am I moving into if I can't even keep a jail open? I mean, we're a laughing stock of every other county detention centers and sheriff's office for the fact of that. No one's even ever heard of it happening.
It's happened here before.
Sure.
What would it cost to get a jail administrator? I don't have a clue as to what that fee would be. If you contracted it or if you hired somebody. What are you looking at for that person only?
Did you have any ideas, Lance?
Well, I think that generally you're going to be looking probably at about $25 an hour to get someone experienced enough that has it, that would come and do it. You know, I'm looking at Missoula. You need someone like in Missoula. If you were looking to get someone soon, I would look to Missoula's management in that area, see what, you know, they're making. But, you know, I would suspect that it's probably $20-30 an hour, because I'm guessing that they're starting out, and then the management's probably salaried from 60 to, in that range, 60 to 70.
I think that's an avenue that you need to look at.
Well, and when you think about it, that's relatively cheap if you're losing 100,000 plus in revenue out of that jail right now. And you are going to have to pay people a living wage if you're going to get them to stay. It's as simple as that. And everybody's afraid to do that because we don't have much money in the county. But you know what? When you pay people a living wage, they have that money to spend in the county too, and it comes back around.
When we're a small county like this, and there's a formula for our population and our revenues and our valuations, and some of the wages are set by the commissioners, but some are set statutorily, and so
Right, like mine.
like the $25 an hour, pretty soon that guy's making more than our own sheriff.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
You know what, I'd be okay with that if it was someone that was doing the job that needs to be done. It sure would take a lot of pressure off us, you know, and really, that's what we need, someone that can come in and run it, that we can trust, that'll run it like it's supposed to be ran, and take pressure off us so we can do our jobs, public safety on the streets.
In fairness to Tom, I mean, the world's changed. It used to be an attorney 25 years ago did everything, wills, probates, you know, did every type of thing. And it's changed, the world's changed. You don't, I mean, sheriffs back then, you know, did everything too. And anymore, with the laws, the way they've become, and this, you know, the requirements and duties of running a detention center, and the policies that are in place, and with the health issues and all of that, you have to have someone that has that specialized training. And, you know, it's just a fact. If not, then you get into, you know, someone commits a suicide or something, you know, you have a jailer that's untrained that gets hurt. It's just time. If you're gonna, I mean, it seems like to me, if we're gonna fix it, we fix it now while it's broke, and, you know, like I said, put a new paint, a coat on it, and then have it trained with people and brought in and either contracted out to be solely you know, whether it be, I don't think it can be juveniles the way it's set up, but whether it be a treatment center for certain types of people, or female prisoners, or mentally ill prisoners that can't be in general populations, something like that. But the one thing is, there's business there. I mean, there's people that I mean, they literally are stacked to the gills everywhere, so it certainly can be maximized one way or the other.
But if you contract it out, that's not really gonna help our problem as
Well,
far
other than
as
it's being used and there's revenues coming in to offset the cost.
So what?
Is it ideal? No, but at least it offsets the cost of the 180 grand that you're gonna be spending for transportation.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I can understand all this, and I'm taking it in, but you're talking about bringing in a $25 or $30 an hour administrators to administrate men that deserve a lot more. We haven't talked about anything about this. Let's see about getting them some more money.
Oh, I agree. That's what we've been saying. I agree with you. They gotta be
Leader's
paid.
no good unless you've got a follower.
That's right.
Yeah, no, you gotta pay a living wage, there's no doubt about it.
And if I understand right, that's all gotta be done through the union, correct?
Well, we negotiate with the union, but unfortunately, like we only have so much money, and as the previous Commissioner Judy Stang pointed out, the commissioners don't levy the taxes or even raise taxes. We're given the money that's levied and the evaluations from the state, and then that's what we have to work with. So if we were to like quote raise taxes, it has to go to a vote of the public, and it usually is specified for a certain area. If we're going to have a special levy for the fair levy for so many years, it's this much money, or they're going to be constant. We have a couple of voted mill levies that are constant. There's a constant 20 general mill. The general fund is 20 all the time. That was voted upon a long time ago. And the hospital has a levy that comes up every, 5 years to maintain 33 mills for the hospital. So these are things that they're specialized. It's not just the commissioners are raising taxes. It's going to be for a certain area that's above and beyond the general fund mills that we collect.
And that brings me back to my point.
Yeah.
The fact is, we go out and hire somebody, but it's gonna be a long time before we can raise the revenue to pay the people what they deserve.
The only other way we can do it is if there's a reduction in force, which we went through.
We've already had that.
Well, yeah.
And I'll say I don't like that idea. If you're talking about laying off a deputy, you're taking away from the public safety, and I don't like that. I don't think it's smart, because, like I said, there's only 7 of us now, and it's a huge job with a big county. That's just not smart business. I just don't like that idea at all, of that, if it comes to that. We've talked about that, Norman.
Yeah, but you know, as Wayne's saying, in the short term, Mr. Wilson's asking, what can we do now?
Right.
If the public safety is an idea that would have to be pitched, that's gonna take some time and go to the voters. So, and in the immediate future, we only have so much money. So if we were to get the jail up and running now, since we have 2 deputies that just left, would it be amenable to hire 1 but not 2 at this current time? Get with the union and try to get the pay up there and then see if we get applicants and get the jail running, and then that would give time for the public safety levy, and you know what I'm saying, and then hire back. I mean, if we're talking short-term fix or long-term, these are our only options. Our only option is,
The problem with that is then you're counting on a levy to pass, and if it doesn't, then you're stuck with what you've got.
Well, that's
But
what
we're stuck with what we've got anyway.
Yeah, well, currently we got nothing to shut down jail. And that doesn't work. That or contract it out to Missoula, and at least if you're gonna just run with the jail, but don't let it sit, at least utilize it. They could have people come out here and run the jail for their own sake and have their inmates
just
out
for the
here.
space.
Yeah, use it for something, but just don't let it, it's great to go in and paint it and have it nice, but have it just sit empty is dumb.
Do you have a short-term plan? Are you gonna try to plan like a special budget amendment to like maybe pay more or try to get some employees, or is that your short-term plan?
Well, that's what we're all kind of here right now, is to
Yeah.
see what,
To me, I don't know. Did you have extra cash? It looks like you have.
unlike, when you were the commissioner, Judy, we had SRS. We don't even have SRS this year right now.
Oh, so. it
So
looked like-
we're between the school share and the county share, that's 1.2 million
Yeah.
that we're gonna be losing.
Because one of the things that's really scary right now is you're not taking in revenue and you're still spending it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna really,
And that's the same issue that we ran into
right,
my first year after you
Yeah.
left. The anticipated revenue that they anticipated didn't materialize,
so.
and yet
You
we
went
were
home.
still putting
Yeah.
that money out. Yeah, it's,
It would make sense to me to contract the space out on the short term
Mhm.
while you get all of your funding and levy and whatever sources you're trying to identify and figure out what you can do, so you're making some money to cover your expenses, and you're planning at some point to take it over yourself, and hopefully at a positive cash flow at that point. But sitting empty is not good.
So,
One
did
other
you,
thing-
the person you talked to in Missoula, is there a contact, are they genuinely?
Jason Kowalski is the head of the detention in there. And obviously TJ is the sheriff. But, I don't know, but I think one of the other thing, maybe is form a group, get some, Sean Donovan, Judy knows a ton of it, but get an action group or something. I don't know if you can make these are just my idea, but get a group that can sit down in the next couple of weeks, kind of like when we lost our county attorney, but get 4 or 5 of us together that can at least try to implement something in the next 30 days or something, or at least present something to you that here's 2 options, A and B, and when we think maybe, I'm sure Judge McLean would be willing again to do something like that. He knows a lot. Certainly the DOC, we could get a person from them, they're always helpful. But put together something like that so that, we're not back here in a month going, well, it's painted, but we don't have anything, no employees. That part of it, which I think is a good idea to, get it ready to go, but it's also, let's have it so that when that's done, that it is going.
How many dispatch do you have now?
Oh, we have Ronnie, who's the administrator, 3 dispatchers, and the 4th one is in training.
And how many does it take to do your 24-hour shifts?
6. That's what,
3 shifts a day?
Are they 8-hour shifts or more?
8. Well, not right now, they're more. but
Yeah, they're working
8
over now to fill in the holes.
8 when they're all staffed.
If I may,
Yeah, Gordon did.
what the message that I've been getting in from around Missoula And different people that I've known that have lived here have made statements, it's a good thing we got out before they turned the lights out. That's kind of a negative message for the property tax people here, or, you know, that homeowners and citizens of this great community we have. But the message we're sending out to our public is not good. And I understand you guys are in a quandary right now, but I agree with Lance. You've got to get a committee together, not tomorrow. It should have been yesterday, because for us hearing it through the news was kind of a negative spot, you know, for us. But we need to get this done now, right now. While everybody's in here, pick a crew route that is ready to dedicate the time necessary to get this job done. We can't let this build. It's very negative.
Let's lock them up. What effect has the SRS and PILT money had on your situation?
Well, so it's going to be a delayed effect because that money is earmarked for the road department, and that's why on your taxes you'll see there's no road tax, because the SRS money is filling that gap. So without the road tax, without the SRS money, after a couple of years you might have to implement a tax for roads to replace the lost revenue of SRS.
What did you get for PILT this year?
PILT? Going off the top of my head, is it 215? Does that sound right?
That's pretty good. Used to be
115,000.
Used to be 60,000, and you can spend that anywhere.
Right.
So.
And unfortunately, that goes to most of it, part of it goes to paying the health insurance for the employees.
Insurance.
My question is, seems to me we have a problem with finances, and we've been talking about that quite a bit just now, but there's another possible personnel problem, and that is we have had a big turnover, and we need to be able to put our finger on why these people are leaving. If they're leaving because they got a better job, or if that's different than if they're leaving because they're unhappy. And if they're unhappy, then we need to find out why they're unhappy and what we can do.
That would still go into what Lance was talking about.
That's right,
An
exactly.
fact-finding commission.
No, that's exactly right, Gordon.
You bet. We need to.
So what you're saying?
So we haven't really addressed that.
Even if we gave them $14 an hour, they might not want to work here, you're saying?
Absolutely. If the conditions, I think he's exactly right. There's something that's happened to 8 people to leave. I mean, because in the one meeting, the one guy said the money didn't matter to him. It would had to deal with the way it was being managed. And so, but there's 8 people. That's not hard to talk to 8 people. It's a matter of just picking up the phone and see if they're willing to talk to you to see what those issues are.
Do an exit interview
Yeah.
as to why.
We have them.
We do
Because
have.
it's always been money, and we've been able to keep.
You can't blame any person. I mean, like I said, and it's impossible.
Well-
I mean, you have new staff, you hire a new person, they stay a year, they get their certificate from the training, and they can move 45 minutes down the road and make 19 starting out, or go to Sanders and make an extra $5 an hour, and have benefits. The people are gonna do that.
But Lance, I think as far as finding the cause, you know, anyone that's lived in Mineral County has all worked terrible jobs. Somewhere in their career, they've taken a job that they didn't like, the money wasn't what they thought they were worth. But if you worked with people that
You got along with
you got along with and respected your hard work, there was kind of a camaraderie. And some of the people that we've talked to are having issues with that.
No, I think it's, like I said, that's why I think like I said, this was a cancer that started a while ago, and there's many factors to it that have led to sitting here today. This wasn't what it seemed like overnight when you heard it on the news the next day, but this is clearly not something that started on the week before the doors were shut. There's been something that's taken place. But it doesn't mean it can't be fixed.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, I think that's one of the things hiring an administrator like that would help with too. Because
So-
they can focus totally on.
So if we were gonna pay somebody $60,000 a year to come in and run our jail, where's that money coming from, Tom?
Yeah.
Any idea?
I know.
I mean, we don't wanna lay anybody off. We want things to
Well,
be
that's what
exactly as they are.
And that's why I think you gotta get a group of people together
Yeah.
and say, this is the option to it. Because like I said, to me, if you don't have a jail, you don't need a sheriff's office. You're gonna contract it out. And
Well,
that-
there
that
are a
doesn't
couple
make-
of, there are a couple of jails in Montana that do exactly what we're doing
Well,
right
there's a
now.
lot that don't have a jail.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
used to have like an employee that was the jail
Yeah,
administrator.
We still
years
do.
back.
The undersheriff is the
This was a different, like a jail.
Yeah. Well, not since I've been here. We've
Yeah,
never
it's
had an
been-
administrator other than, like I said, under sheriff's home, but be nice for someone to be just totally dedicated for that.
It is hard because the world has a lot more liabilities than it did years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very true.
And you really have to keep on top of it. And sometimes you need someone full-time that does just watch that. It's not as easy as it used to be, so.
Yeah, and you're watching 26
Yeah.
people?
And you know, managing employees is hard, and sometimes you need someone just to make sure they're dotting their i's and crossing their t's and doing their things they're supposed to,
And maybe you don't have to hire them permanently, but you contract them for a year to get someone else trained up to speed to step into that spot. Something like that is a lot of that's done in Missoula County, for example. I was talking to them about it, and they use a lot of contract employees to help the commissioners out in Missoula. But they make them a year contract so that, they're not leaving to go somewhere else during that period of time. But maybe that's another route, is that
That's
a
one of
year
the- yeah.
apprenticeship, you have them, someone right next to them.
I was very involved a few years back in hiring a hospital CEO. And when we went through that process, we looked at the candidate we selected, what he wanted to come here, and a couple of people said, we can't afford to pay that. I said, we can't afford not to pay that. And we got our money's worth. Lori will tell you, we've been seeing the best numbers we've ever seen up there since I've been there recently, and that getting a good person in there to run it has a lot to do with that.
When I first took over 3 years ago, one of my biggest concerns coming in was the jail. So when I say we, I've talked about myself and the undersheriff and some other people that were here then, went through the jail to take a look at it. And this is why I think it's important that we hire an administrator that can dedicate their time to totally doing that. There was over 100 violations of policy that we found throughout the jail. And so then I was asked, because I was the sheriff, and I took that responsibility, and I fully take the responsibility for that, to fix that. So we had to start really making sure the policy was followed, and it was a difficult task. And people had to be written up because they weren't taking care of it the way they were supposed to. So it was an ugly mess that's, quite frankly, it's still there. I mean, I think we're better than we were, other than being closed down. And I mean, that aspect of it I'm not happy about, obviously, but it's a huge job. That's my point to this. I think it'd be smart for us to really consider that, person that can dedicate their time to solely that, because it's not like Mayberry RFD when I was here in the early 90s. Things have changed. I mean, that's the evolution of time, and it's about lawsuits, and it's about trying to do what's right with today's society, and obviously some of that's backfired on me, and I've addressed some of that stuff, and we're taking care of it, but that doesn't take care of the problems that we're going to face in the future. And I think what Lance is saying putting a committee together is a great idea. Anytime you've got more than one mind and eyes looking and listening and looking at something, it's always better. I think it worked really good when we were looking at hire, a county attorney. I mean,
We got an excellent one
yes,
because of it.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd hate to see Ellen leave, but I mean, that's the end product of what you've got by doing that.
Where are you
Sheriff, who sets, when you talked about the policies, who sets those policies, the state?
Most of our policy that's in place, I looked at it again and compared it to the national standards. Most of it comes from national standards. Now, I mean, the vast majority of our policy comes right from national standards. So it's not something that we just say, let's make this up and do this. It comes from national standards. And then, of course, then you're going to have little variances because every jail is unique to that jail. But the vast majority of it comes from national standards.
Yeah, and Mako has a set of.
Yeah, and that's where they get theirs,
Mhm.
from national standards. If you look at theirs, and it's identical.
Mr. Manning?
Dwayne, you talked about everyone in Mineral County working a job that they don't like or whatever. I mean, what job here in Mineral County do you arrest someone that might hate you, that might be drunk, that might be spitting on you, that may be anything else, and you're making less money than a fry cook in Missoula? I mean, no other job. We have a very unique job here, and frankly, I mean, I don't think they get paid enough. I mean, nowhere else in the county you're going to work where you experience something like that. I mean, Sheriff, I mean, have we got any job applications in the last, since we've had the opening, have we had it open?
For
detention officers.
We got, I think, didn't you say we got one yesterday, Bob?
Okay.
This morning? I mean, I left from when I was here in the early 90s and tripled my income when I went to another job. I know I looked at there's a public, I don't know what it's called, where it gives the rate of pay you're getting. One of our recent jailers that left, he's going to be getting $23, $45 an hour. I mean, 10 something, 23 something.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's what it is.
It is what it is,
When you
exactly.
buy a house in Missoula, it's $100,000 more than when you buy one here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of differences
There is.
when you go somewhere that.
And Paul, what was your pay when you left Mineral County as a jailer? Where'd you start at?
Remember.
You don't remember? Yeah. And it's always been poor in Mineral County. I mean, Judy, do you remember talking to old commissioners? It's always been a problem.
Yeah.
Never had any money here.
No, it's just,
And most people.
everything's based off what the elected officials can make.
Yeah, it's a formula we don't control.
Yeah, and then it's, and then the deputies can only make so
90%.
much of what the sheriff makes, and then the deputies used to get, they didn't want jailers and detention people making more than them. I mean, it didn't seem fair, so.
I didn't come back here for the pay, I guarantee you that. I
Yeah.
love Mineral County,
And I think a lot
but
of
it sure
people-
makes it a lot easier to stay and live here.
I think a lot of people live here because of other things that they like and put up with smaller wages, but it seems to be that there is a discrepancy between what the jailers are getting, even between what the deputies are getting, that maybe, But the bad part is you're gonna have to do a budget amendment, and somewhere you're gonna have to be able to find the money to do that increase, to solve this problem. And then, in the meantime, you're not taking in the money that you anticipated, that's adding to the fire, to the problem. So, to me, we need to get started right away trying to figure this out before we lose any more money.
So that's the only thing about a
Yeah.
committee is that it's going to take
Yeah.
time. Is everybody in agreement that
But I
a
think,
committee is the best way to go, even though it might forestall any immediate action?
yeah.
Well,
Trying to get
that's
it
why
working.
we're
Yeah.
doing some training with the
Okay.
current guys.
So Mr. Wilson has his hand up first. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I agree with this gentleman back here. I looked it up on the internet before I come in here, and median salary here in Superior is 10 something an hour. And that's from working the lumber yard, which you don't get spit on, you don't get cursed at, I agree with this gentleman. What they do here deserves a lot more than a meeting. We all know that. But how to get it, that's what we need to get the committee together and say how we're gonna do it.
Mr. Manning, you had your hand next.
I lost my track.
Okay. Mr. Woodland?
Yeah, committee doesn't have to take that long if you meet real regular. It's
And
not
right now-
hold a meeting every, once a month. Put the committee together at your first meeting this afternoon or tomorrow. Maybe you decide on a couple other people you need to get on the committee and have a second meeting on Monday. Everybody walks out of there with an assignment to research something and you meet again on Tuesday.
Okay. Do we want to discuss it or start selecting committee members? Any more discussion?
Just make sure that all the information that's gathered and everything through this committee, there's this, they have to report to county commissioners first before it ever hits the press or the public. That the discussions and everything go through you guys first. Okay? Otherwise, it could go to hell in a handcart real quick. We ain't
Are
doing
you
it.
wanting to be on the committee, Gordon?
It's, there's better minds than
Well,
me.
the recommendations.
I'm looking for
we did
willingness.
the county attorney,
I'm
wasn't
willing.
that just for the commissioners?
I'll do it.
Yeah, Judy'd be great
Judy?
fun.
I have
As long as it's not during Saturdays.
Judy Stang, Gordon Hendrick.
How about you, Lance?
I'll do it.
That's good.
Sean Donovan.
Should put, see if Sean Donovan would do it. He knows a lot about connections.
You know,
I'll give him a call, I got him written down.
But Ernie,
I think we should try to find someone, maybe from DOC or something, that we maybe consult with, but, maybe, I'll try to find somebody else that might be a good.
Outside person's very helpful with something like
Someone
that,
has some
outside point
expertise
of
in
view.
jail.
That's a better point of view than we're too close to
Jason
the
said he was
situation.
willing to help us too.
Mhm. Oh, and then is there anybody
I
that
think you're
was,
gonna need your
is there anybody that was a jailer here that has some insight on how to improve things in there that wants to be on the committee? Brandy, oh, Matthew?
Judy,
You want to be on, you'd be willing to be on the committee?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, don't
Brandy,
make it
you
too
said
big.
yes?
Judy,
But
you're a finance person.
She's already
I
said
know,
she'll
but there's
still
still
Yeah, no, but
budgetary
she's talking
statutes
finance.
that you have to follow, so that's what I think.
We'll have to have
That's what I was
access to
thinking.
the budget first.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
with,
Jessica.
yeah,
yeah. there
we'd
you
have
go.
to have Jessica.
Yeah.
Well, she could, yeah, she
You know, we
would.
gotta look at the cash, we gotta look at. all that.
So-
And I think the sheriff or the undersheriff, as well as the commissioners, should all be in the loop too. Because
Oh, yeah.
they're the ones that oversee the nightmare that it is.
You don't want a quorum of commissioners, however,
Right.
No.
because you want to be able to meet without having to do notices.
So we can,
Well, and that don't matter, we can post it
we
as
can-
I think like you're not making a decision, you're not gonna get in
Yeah.
trouble.
as long
So-
as.
so
I'd
from
like
the
to
public,
see
I've
the
got
evening meeting.
2, 3, 4. I've got 5 from the public, 6 if that includes Sean Donovan, and then Jessica, because she's a budget lady, that would be, and then Tom, who from the sheriff's office do you want?
Well, I think Boone and I both should be on it.
Okay.
Are these meetings
I'm
going to
kind
be
of
open
speaking
to
for
the
Boone,
public?
but
What is it,
Yeah.
what is the opinion on that, county attorney?
I'm usually of the opinion open is better.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, the
So-
committee could sit here at the table and the
Yes.
public could
Yeah.
observe, just like kind
Listen,
of,
but I don't think.
Yes,
you should.
and
It's
there can be
not,
some limits where if somebody's, starts
When,
talking or interrupting where we can, it's not a free-for-all.
so,
But
when
I
we
think
did
it's
your
important that
surge
it's-
challenge, we didn't close those meetings, it just,
yeah.
nobody was real interested in coming to them, they were evening meetings, and
Right.
nobody was real interested.
Yeah, and I think
We
that's.
didn't exclude
Right.
anybody, had they walked through the door.
Right, and that's exactly, I just think that's
Yeah.
a good call, especially because this is
Okay.
such a community issue.
So we've got 2 from the sheriff's office, 2 prior jailers, and then we've got 2 attorneys, Lance and Sean, and then we've got a previous commissioner and a previous mayor. Or legislator, that's a little bit higher.
I think Lance's suggestion of getting somebody from the Department of Corrections in is
And
an
maybe we
excellent
just look
solution.
as at least as an advisor, but we can figure that out as a group.
Okay,
Excellent.
so there's 8 people plus Jessica as the finance advisor,
Yeah, you don't want
That's a
it
big
any
enough
bigger
group.
than that either.
unless we're missing any important.
I think that's good.
And then what would be a target timeline for a get-together, since it's Friday now, but
Tuesday.
Start at 3 o'clock this afternoon and 2 now.
You're the one that's busy,
Have your
so-
first meeting is with the people you've got who are available now, and get at least set some frameworks right
I
now.
can stay right now for a little while.
Well, yeah, we're,
And contact information.
the only real thing we have is,
We have
2:30,
me.
we have
Oh, yeah.
conference call.
we've got, are you bringing us a Confederate statue for the lawn? It's a statue on the lawn.
Well, there you go.
I'm just joking. It's not a Confederate statue. Yeah, I don't think, is it? Yeah, we don't think. We never know with Gordon.
If I got a deal for you.
It's a statue of Gordon.
Okay, Mr. Manning had collected his thought. Mr. Manning.
Well, I was gonna hit on something else, but all I can really say is, like, with law enforcement, we always talk about policy changing. I mean, you know, it's always a dynamic thing. You may think something sounds right on paper, then you enact it, and it doesn't work, and policy needs to be changed again. It's always this constant revolving thing, but I know I can speak for at least who I know here, that, you know, we wanna make this a safer and better place for everybody. We understand that there are limits, but, I mean, we don't work here for the money. We don't do it for the money. If it was up to everyone would be making, you know, bundles. We do it because we have pride in what we do.
Sure.
And we have pride in the sheriff's office. We have pride in Mineral County. We just want to see it be a better place and see people stay here, work here, and thrive.
Well, and I can second that. The things that I've initiated mostly have been safety concerns and nothing else. And I think one of the things that I've identified is a better job of communication with everyone that's involved there. And I think that somehow that got lost in what's happened recently, and I've addressed that. So that is changing and will.
Yeah. Because the same pride that Travis just spoke to is the same pride that even jailers and dispatchers want to be able to possess and feel valued and appreciated for. So part of that same sense of duty to the public we're all working for.
Tom, do you currently have a job, just for jobs? Openings posted?
Yes.
Yeah. So this room will be available like 3:15 if you guys did want a quick powwow after our.
You can do it.
I just
Or
kind
you
of
can,
have
yeah.
something to say real quick. We suggested a public safety levy a year and a half ago when we were dealing with the strike, and there was no interest in doing that, and now we're at a critical point. So,
There was interest in it, for whatever reason it didn't happen.
Look how long it took to pass the school levy.
Let's not go this.
So did you want to just do it now in the courtroom?
Just go up to Burn, yeah.
So, okay,
I have a presentation real quick to make.
and then you'll be up there? Yeah, so the newly formed committee, Lance will meet up in the courtroom.
Okay.
And Gordon will be there after he does his statute.
We'll kind of go over this real quick, and, you know, I know you guys have
we've
just
got a
worked your
conference call at
butt off here, so we're gonna make this short and sweet to the point. What we're doing here, I've been asked just to speak on their behalf. I got involved in this through Emily, and she is the main person in charge of this whole statue that we'd like to put up. And as you can see, Dennis Altoff is a very, very art-going guy. I mean, there's no second nature to it. This is perfect stuff. I love his work. It's very expensive on the natural part of it. We'd like to set this up on the corner over there, and for those who have that sheet, and if you don't have the sheet, we can pass it around. This will be 16 feet tall, okay? And in the areas right here, those are see-through, okay? This see-through here, and the rest is, I mean, we've got all the different businesses covered here. We have mining, we have logging, we have railroad, we have, we'd like to put maybe stuff in for the hospital stuff. We're not to the final stage of what we're doing here, but what we're asking the county commissioners is the permission to be able to do this. We're not asking them for money. because if that came about, I'm out of here. But as you see, we have the axe that could represent the Forest Service and also the loggers. We've got the saw, the old style saw.
Whipsaw.
You got whipsaw there. We have the mining cart there. We have the fishing. We have the railroad. And as our commissioner had just stated, you've got Northern Pacific, Burlington Northern, and Montana Railing, the three ties right there. And I'm sure I can go to the railroad and get them to make a plaque for each one of these ties to put on to represent the different railroads. And they will help pay for the statue. And if the other contractors and businesses around can buy little plaques and mount them on the stone here. So that would help them show that they're in support for what we're trying to accomplish here. We're just trying to make our community a little more inviting. We've had enough negativity coming out of this area the last doggone lifetime. We want to change that. We want to change it to a positive instead of a negative. All we've got is negative. We want our kids to be proud. I'd like to involve our BPA students, our metal work, our metal shop at the school, work with Dennis a little bit on this, and our carpentry stuff where they can make plaques. I'd like to make this a community-involved deal, not just the few people that are here. And at that, I'll leave this to Emily, and you go ahead and explain a little bit farther about the dimensions on this.
Okay. Well, I think Gordon already said it would be 16 feet wide, and we're thinking maybe around 10 feet across. So I think that area would be just about perfect. The only thing would be you'd have to take the tree down, obviously. So I don't know how sentimental that tree is on the corner, but we would have to. So that may be something that you might think about. And the only other issue may be that, and you obviously don't have to make a decision to allow us to do that today, but would be parking. If it does draw people, which we're hoping to draw people to stop, look at it. The historical society could, around the back of it, put plaques on where our town started, where it is now, with pictures and stuff. Parking, because I know parking for the courthouse is limited, but that's something you need to think about, I suppose. But
so you're suggesting where the parking lot is, or over here in the lawn where the
where the little, it's kind of like almost a triangle, right where the corner comes on 4th and River.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's just that little.
So it would be more, would affect the
triangle.
parking then?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Only if people
I
need
don't-
to stop and take
Yeah.
a look at it. That's what we're hoping.
Oh, they can park on the side.
But they
out
can
here.
park down
Yeah,
the
there's-
side.
I don't think the parking's gonna be a
Okay.
problem.
How much, I like the idea of, because the Historical Society once upon a time wanted to be able to sell pavers or bricks, and people could in honor of the Smith family, and they pay.
All around that.
Yeah, and so
Like they
would there
do
be
at
enough,
university.
would there be enough space
Yes.
to kind of dovetail on your monument here with pavers? where
Pavers in the
people-
ground.
To help this.
That's a
historic-
great
Instead of the
idea.
grass.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
good.
You said your idea about in the rocks itself, people, but
But
the
on-
Those are
Historical Society
businesses, yeah.
could do, and then that
Yeah.
area between the curb and the said parking lot, wherever, I haven't looked, but that could be eventually filled in with
With
these
pavers.
pavers.
Yeah, that's a
a
great
good
idea.
money raiser.
Yeah, that was your idea, so I stole your thunder.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
the museum has been trying to sell pavers for quite a few
Right.
years. And I think we've got 3 people that have them, that paid for them, that,
How much
Where
are
were they
they?
gonna go?
about 10 years. That's a good question.
Oh, you didn't have a place to go.
That's why I brought it up. Don't you think
Now
this
we
would be a
got a
good place
place.
for it to go?
Now we might
Well,
not
we
stay
were gonna
good.
put it in here at the courthouse,
Well, that's pretty much the same. It'll be
Yeah.
right there.
but 10 years we've been at this.
Well, I hope we can help you.
I think that with a location and a monument in place, it might generate the interest, because right now, when it's been proposed, there hasn't really been a spot where people can go and see, oh yeah, I want to buy one, because there's where it's going to go, there's what it's going to be.
Right.
because we couldn't come up with a place.
Mhm.
We thought about like a small fence and putting them on the fence, you know, a rock fence. We've thought about a sidewalk going out to the side. You know, we talked about the cement pedestal with the hydraulic giant on top and all that,
Well, if you take a look at the University of Montana, you go where the Grizzly is, right there, and you take a look around that, that's where all the pavers are, with all the names of the families that have paid into it. And that's a great idea. That's perfect what you suggested, and I think that would solve the issues, and we could really go on to selling. Well, how much are the pavers?
we have 4 different sizes.
Yeah, I see. So we'd have to,
Square to brick.
okay, so we'd have to design that out there to where you want the bigger ones to go and to where the smaller ones. Because I think that the university, they're all the same size.
Well, and we could go back to
Yeah.
have
Can
them
I-
all the same size.
Yeah, okay.
Can I, because I'm a town councilor, what you were saying about Mineral County, I would, because we are in Superior, I would prefer to maybe have it welcome to Superior, Montana. Just because that's where we are, and this is the county seat.
And this is county property.
It is county property, but, you know, that's what I talked to Dennis about,
Mhm.
and that's why he put that on the top.
Here in Montana.
So
How
I
about
think
if
we
you
have
put
to-
both?
Superior's Mineral County, Montana.
Well, that's a possibility.
That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
don't know how
said.
much he can fit on that. That blade, he said he was gonna try to get a 4-foot blade. Now, I guess that's really big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as big as this table wide.
Yeah, yeah. But he had a couple of ideas of where he could get, and I don't know if they use them that big anymore. Do they? Okay, so those,
They're out there.
and all
If
this
we
will
look
be
just down the road, you could probably find
reclaimed.
them.
Yeah, it'll be reclaimed stuff. It
Yes.
won't be new
Yeah, 'cause
stuff, so.
He
if
could
you-
spell out mineral in normal letters and then put CO period for county, and it probably will fit on there.
It might fit on there,
Yeah.
sure. But I do think we have to give him room to be the
Oh, I
artist.
understand. Oh, sure.
And
Oh,
so-
yeah, well, everything I
You know.
said was still in the makeup yet, we don't know.
Right.
As long as there was a
And-
picture of all 3 commissioners on there.
No.
Maybe not.
Target practice. Yeah, target practice. Yeah, you would get shot.
Don't want anybody throwing
I
eggs
really
at
need that Jill after that.
Yeah.
What size is this
And
monument?
it's 16 feet tall is what he's
16 feet
thinking,
tall.
yeah, 16 feet high.
Like 10 feet.
From about 10 feet, you know,
To go out and
approximately.
look. I haven't
I
been
don't
able
know,
to
right
look.
on it.
And I don't know, 10,
know
well,
what
he's
it's
thinking the
but
base is
this-
gonna be 10
Go
across
Yeah, but this
here,
would-
but I don't know how deep
Yeah,
yet.
okay.
That kind of, we have to leave that
neighbor.
to him. But he is gonna, that tree, the tree is gonna look like bark, but he's gonna use this technique of filling in for the bark. So that will be solid looking, but it'll have different pieces welded to it. So, anyway, I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's something that would draw people, you know. Emily gave me statistics, a lot of people pulling here for gas at Town Pump. But we just need them to stop and take a second look, maybe down this way. Hopefully this could do that. So we just need, so all we're asking from you is permission to, if we can get the money, you know, if we can raise the enthusiasm, and Dennis is willing to do it. He said it would be 700 hours
Wow.
of work. But he said he could do it in about 5 to 6 months. And bless his heart, he didn't want to put a price tag on it. So I told him, I think it's worth $30,000. That gives him about 40, if he does spend 700, and he could spend more than that, $40 an hour. For an artist, that's pretty, you know, that's not, I don't know if you've ever gone online to see John Lopez's art. It's similar to this. For one statue, he had a longhorn bull statue, got $200,000 for. So I think for something that is going to advertise our town, if we could raise the money through sponsorships, through bricks, through businesses, through the railroad, you know, if we could raise that money, he's willing to do it. if we have the spot to put it. So that's all we're asking for.
All you're asking for is space.
Is space, permission, yeah. So it's up to
I-
you whether you want to decide today or,
Yeah, I probably, well, I can't even, I'd have to go out and look at the spot, and I don't know what you guys think. You wanna make a decision now or later?
Well, I think it's fine if they see if they can raise the money.
Right.
I guess I would like to see some public comment on what people think about that tree coming down.
yes, like I say, I don't know
Yeah,
how
there's,
sentimental that
you know,
might
we
be.
we took a lot of flack just when we
Just
trimmed
taking
them.
that branch off.
Oh, yeah.
I wondered.
We did.
It is sort of uneven.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of.
That's to keep it away from traffic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it was, Joe.
I don't have a problem with it, Gordon.
Yeah.
I don't
okay.
either.
You know.
All right.
But I think that it would be.
Well, you guys
Maybe
think
have
about
it in
it.
the paper
Make a
of
decision,
what
let
we're
us
gonna
know.
do and.
Maybe, I mean, this
and
picture,
maybe
you
have
could
Put a
even.
picture of the, yeah, because there might be somebody who, for some reason, wanted a different statue, who knows? But at least, like you say, if we have
Yeah.
the public involved, then we get a little bit more all on the same page.
Okay.
Well, I know.
No.
Anyway,
Yes.
he said that.
Oh, it is the Superior Town Council's doing this? She asked if it was.
Emily is,
No, I
I'm just
didn't
from
think
the
so.
town council. No,
Who's doing this?
Just a group of people?
just,
Oh, okay.
just some you, but you probably wouldn't want to hear from me.
When you have your meeting, you might want to let us know at the museum,
Oh, okay.
so that we can give our input also.
Okay,
Come
all
to the
right.
museum
Well, once-
meeting on the
once we get-
14th.
When can we
Yeah.
do
Once we
it?
get official permission to do, this is the first step, is the official permission to put it there. And when we go to get together to kind of brainstorm about, ways to raise money, you'll definitely be called.
Museum
For help.
meeting is the 14th.
Come to our meeting
I'll-
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see if I
on
can.
a Tuesday night, 14th.
And present it.
5:30.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if you would.
The 17th.
Okay.
okay,
Okay, so I don't know if the commissioners have seen the survey that shows us where the road is actually located in relationship to the road strip, which is the area in which Two Rivers Road is supposed to be located.
Okay, and we've got Candace here too from Tim Reed's office.
Hi, Candace.
Hello.
So did anybody give them the survey or print it out so they can see it?
We're looking at it right now.
Okay, so the gray strip is physically where the road surface is, and you can see when you get toward the north end of Two Rivers Road, south of lots 1 and 2, that the road actually moves to the west and is over on the railroad property. Can everybody see that?
no, we haven't caught up to you, not yet.
All right.
Maybe, wait, no, sorry. Okay, wait a minute.
I'm seeing lot 3 and 4 on the map.
And
an
I
old
did have the big maps, and now I'm looking, I wonder if I gave them back.
What lots was she looking for?
Oh, I see lot 2 down here.
We want to be
Yeah,
south
is
of
that-
lot
is-
2.
Does that open? No. This doesn't open.
No.
Okay.
Is Candace going to get it?
Oh, maybe. Sorry, hang on one second.
What's on?
Sure, no
Just
problem.
a smaller version.
I had, I
Oh,
had
no,
a big
that's-
one, I thought I
Here's-
did.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, it's Two Rivers.
Wait a second, hold on. Oh, here they, okay, hold on. I was like, I know I had them in this file. Sorry about that. Okay.
It's got too many files.
Gee, okay, this is gonna be easier, because she walked me through this on the phone before. I've got it, Susan. Okay.
It's okay. I'm really happy to spend extra time talking on the phone as opposed to sliding across Montana.
Yes. Okay, we've got the big
Oh, okay,
one.
now.
Yes. There we go. Sorry about that. I was sure I had them, I just couldn't find them.
That's okay?
So it's you're looking at what they call the right-of-way exhibit?
Yes.
Okay.
And, okay, so focus on lots 3, 4, and 5, which are at the north end of the survey.
I see 3.
Here's 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay? Now, when you look, there's a gray part that says paved road. You can see where that
Oh,
paved
yeah.
road leaves the dashed line and goes to the northwest over onto the railroad right-of-way.
Yeah.
Everybody
Okay.
see that?
So that's the actual road.
Yeah, that's the surface isn't really in the road strip. The surface is on the railroad right of way. And I don't know how much you've ever dealt with trying to ever get land from a railroad, but we should all live so long. And there's no way to condemn land from a railroad because the railroad took care of that legislation way early in Montana history. So we have two options. One of the options is for the commissioners to prioritize in the road department's budget and get your road supervisor to agree that they would move the road toward the southeast, toward the lots.
Correct.
Physically move the road surface toward the lots and get it off of the railroad property. That would be my hope. But I understand that's a multi-step process in county government, right? You know, it requires resources and time commitments and things that I don't even know, equipment that I don't even know if you own or not.
Right. Oh, and I did email Jason McLeese and asked him to come. He did come up to talk to me, and then I know he went down to talk to Tim a few days ago, but I don't know if he actually got together with him. So Jason
he
may
was
have
going to be here,
forgotten.
then he had to go plow snow in the
Oh,
west end.
okay.
So he
Yeah,
called
I was thinking
and said-
something must have come up.
He had real work to do.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Susan, just
okay, so
ballpark is
let me give you two options of the overall. My goal for Two Rivers Road is to get you to declare the portion of Two Rivers Road that sits in the road strip as a county road. You're treating it as a county road. You're maintaining it as a county road. Everything south of Lot 3, Parcel 3 on that right-of-way exhibit, you are already treating as a county road, but it's not a declared county road because the survey granted it to public use, and you've never declared it by resolution. So ultimately, in order to clean up one road in your county, I would love to get Two Rivers Road adopted by resolution as a county road. Okay, but just south of Lot 2. Now, A, you don't have to do this. B, we could declare the road a county road south of the lot lines, I guess it'd be, south of the extension of the lot line between 5 and 6, because that road sits in the right-of-way. We could just do that. But that leaves the road for 5, 4, and 3 in the wrong place that we all know it's in the wrong place.
Oh, here he comes. Mr.
Right?
McLeese is here. This is Susan
The
Swindler.
road foreman just got here.
Yay!
All right. So recap everything you just said, Susan.
Okay, so we'll start over. All right, you've seen the map?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
All right. So I was just saying, my goal, because I'd like to clean up the road, Two Rivers Road once and for all, so that when I depart your county, you guys never have to look back at Two Rivers Road and say bad things about me. Is that the surveyor surveyed the surface, which you can see on that map, and up until the point we're at 5, we're northwest of 5, 4, and 3. The physical road is in the road strip, so that's good. When you get over to 5, it starts to wander just a little bit northwest out of the road strip, and it gets further on 4, and it gets even further on 3. And what I would like, and what I'm asking the county commission to consider, is to budget appropriately and schedule as a priority and get the road superintendent's agreement on this. That the road crew would physically move the road surface to the southeast, adjacent to 5, 4, and 3, so it was in the strip of land. That's the road strip. Then we would have the surveyor come back and say, yes, indeed, the road surface is in the road strip of land, and redo this so that it actually showed that the road surface was in the road strip of land. And then we'd attach that to a resolution that the county commission would put on their agenda, and they would be declaring Two Rivers Road from the southern boundary of Lot 2 all the way down to the southern boundary of Lot 19 as a county road. well, I guess where it's constructed on lot 19 as a county road, okay? That in my world, from a legal standpoint, you would then have Two Rivers Road from the southern boundary of lot 2 all the way down to 19 would be a county road, and then it would be clear forever. It was the county's responsibility to maintain it. We would never have to come back and look at any legal aspects of Two Rivers Road.
Hey, Susan,
I completely understand that is a commitment of resources and allocations well beyond anything that I have any control of. So I'm just pushing this out there to say, this is what I would like the commission to do.
Susan?
And, go ahead.
So clarify one thing for me. You want to move it, so we're looking at the gray strip, then the road wanders to the right real hard, or I'm just wandering to my right real hard.
Into lot 2.
Into lot 2.
Yep, and we don't go there anyway, so I don't want to go there.
So you want to move it to that dark line. You want to move it from where it's at right
Just stop it.
Oh, right there.
And then end.
But
I don't want you to do anything in near, like, on the southern boundary of lot 2 or into lot 1, because you never have.
Okay.
So that was the purpose of this call, was to get you guys talking about that. And I realize from a timing standpoint, we're beyond this budget year, right? You've already set your budgets.
would it, hey
go ahead.
Susan, this is Jason, Road Department. Would it be easier to talk to BNSF about adjusting moving the right of way over on them rather than move this road? Because where this road would have to move to get inside that road surface, you'd be taking out people's yards, like decorations and landscaping, and seems like that would be
You
easier
can certainly have that conversation. In the 30 years I've been practicing law, I have never had any luck getting the railroad to agree to anything. So, and technically, I know I've driven that road. People have stuff out in the road easement area. I know that. But they don't own that property, and they don't pay tax on that property. And so they have just moved their front yards into land they don't own.
Boy, who's going to tell them that?
Well, and that's why we're having this conversation now, in all honesty, is because I recognize that there's an entire, other component, which is that if the commission has the will to go do this, then we need to start educating people and showing them where the road would have to go. And, I mean, like I said, you guys haven't even contemplated whether you have funds and you have the equipment that could have this done. So this was step one in what I would say is a long process, not a decision of we're going to go move the road.
And is the railroad complaining about where the road is currently, or what's the urgency to move it?
Well, you can't declare it a county road on the railroad property.
Okay.
Because you don't have the authority to do that. But that's what I'm saying. The other alternative is to punt this to a future commission. And it's a valid alternative. I'm not saying it's not. Because if you look down at the lot line between 5 and 6, the road is in the road strip. We could, based on this survey we have done right now, we could prepare a resolution that has you declare it's a county road, essentially at the line that would extend from lots 5 and 6 to the northwest and all the way to the south. We could do that. That leaves to a future commission to deal with the problem that we know exists in the fact that the road moves over onto the railroad right-of-way, and and I think it might be lot 4, 3 or 4, one of them's undeveloped at this point. So, from a standpoint, one of them's vacant. So, but we don't have to fix it. Frankly, you guys, you don't have to fix this problem at all. You can say we don't want to declare it as a county road, and we're going to continue to maintain this road as if it were a county road. I mean, you've been doing it for 17 years now. You don't have to fix it, but my suggestion would be that you do, just because I prefer to, that's me, I prefer to clean everything up once and for all, but that's why we're having this conversation. And it is a conversation, not a decision.
Okay.
And I think you had drafted like a proposed resolution.
Yes.
Yes. And I have that, and I can have make sure to give that to commissioners, they can look over it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's a form you guys can use for anything.
I'd like to talk with Tim Reed, and he's not available right now, so I'd like to get his ideas on it too.
And I think it'd be a good idea to go look at it, for these guys to actually go physically see it, what we're talking about. So,
yeah, go drive and look at it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, what's the distance when we start to encroach off? What kind of feet are we talking? 12 feet, 15?
Well, let's see, that road strip is 30 feet wide, and the road roughly looks like it's 24, maybe?
Okay.
So it varies, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
at 5, it's probably only a couple of feet off, and at 4, it gets bigger, and at 3, almost, 20 of the 24 is probably over on the railroad? And when you drive it, it makes perfect sense as to why the road is where the road is.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that was the entire purpose of this call.
Okay.
Sum and total, I'm not asking you to make a decision. I just need you to get it in your thought process so you can tell me, yes, no, let it go. I am good with any of those answers. It doesn't matter to me. But I want to make sure you knew that's the issue we're talking about, is right in there. The road is physically not in the road strip. And you can't use the railroad's if the public uses private persons' properties for more than 5 years, and it's considered to be a prescriptive easement.
Mm-hmm.
But the law actually precludes you from using railroad property and getting a prescriptive easement. So you're never going to get the public's right to keep the road where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you're always subject to the potential that the railroad can come back and say, nope, we're shutting this off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, we see where the little fork in the road goes up to the northwest, like it leaves in at lot 3 where there's a fork.
Yeah.
There's actually, when you go out there's actually quite a physical turnaround. There's a cul-de-sac, essentially. That's what I would call it, a round turnaround. And then that road goes up and around right next to the railroad. And the reason the road makes that deviation is there's a big rock outcropping right in the area where there's the number 2 and the west, where it says west portion. It's never going to be a road, I can tell you that. So, but that was the issue.
Hey, Susan?
Yes.
What was the lawsuit over?
The lawsuit it's still alive, but we've got a magistrate's decision, is over the portion of the road strip that bisects 2 and 1.
So it's beyond county maintenance.
Yeah.
Right. County has never maintained it. There's a sign that's essentially at the south end of 2 that says private drive, no trespassing, which is was part of their, and the claim by Joan Arstad was that the public had lost their right to use the public road across 2 and 1.
Oh, I got you.
And since it's never been declared a county road, we don't use the county road laws. We used essentially the arguments that it was dedicated to the public in 1969, and that's what the judge said. The judge said, by the fact that the county, nobody's maintained it, the public didn't lose the right to use it. So, I guess it leads us to an interesting conversation you guys also should be aware of, is that, so look at lot 1 on the north end of that survey. You see the dashed line that goes across, and then you see the triangle area north of the dashed line. That is Mrs. Aristad and Tricon are doing a realignment of common boundaries. So Lot 1 will now go, will kind of wrap around in a U shape or in the N shape all the way around that public road. And originally, Tricon in their settlement had reserved an easement that went across that triangular area and then would have connected to the Tricon property, which is just on the north side of that triangle. But they have now modified that so the Tricon does not have any, is not going to have any right to cross that strip. So the public road will enter Lot 2 and travel up to Lot 1, and it will stop in the middle, well, we'll say in the middle of Lot 1. I don't know that it affects anything that the county has to do or may ever do, but I just want you to know that's. So now, after all this time that we were fighting to keep the public road a public road because it eventually could go through, now it's not going to go through. And it's not going to connect to anybody else's property. So we won, I guess.
We won the road to nowhere.
Well, yeah, we got a road to nowhere. That's exactly right. So we won and we lost at the same time. There's the realities of it.
Okay.
And we still have the weed issue.
Right, we do have the weed issue, but I want to take just one more minute. I understand that Joan Aristad's going to come back and she's going to try and, because that road strip is still in the Magera name. Magera was the owner in 1969 when the Plat was filed. So she's going to quiet title the ownership to the, I think she's going to anyway, the ownership underlying that road, which for my estimation of the county's purposes doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter who owns the road. It's the public still, under the court ruling, has a right to drive up and I guess and then back down, because when you drive up there, what you're going to see is, unless you turn around in their driveway, there is no place to turn around. And the reason the road is right there is because that's on the embankment that drops down to the river. So it didn't lend itself to ever becoming a thoroughfare anyway. But so that's where that sits on her complaint. I mean, we're done with that, other than we're waiting for a final judicial ruling, but that's how the magistrate said it should come out, which is fine. She has one more. She has a couple of more complaints. She was always concerned that the gravel permit, and I would tell you, it's not just the Tricon permit; it's for all the gravel pits you have or mineral extraction permits you have in the county, that the weeds are not being appropriately addressed. And let me give you the short version of what we found to be the fact, which is that the contracts that go to DEQ talk about what the weed controls should be and what the weed issues are. And those contracts don't require inspection, but several of them went to DEQ with a cover letter that indicated that Mineral County wouldn't be inspecting regularly. And so I believe that if a judge is asked to review that, a judge is going to incorporate that cover letter into the contract, which would obligate the weed district to regularly inspect pits for weed issues. I'm not there. I don't know what your budgets are. I don't know what your hours are. But I think generally, Mrs. Aristad would be willing to resolve her entire weed complaint by having the weed guy agree he's going to go out at least annually and do an inspection and write a letter. And if there are weeds that need to be cleaned up that don't get cleaned up, then he has to, say, okay, well, you have 30 days to do something, and if they don't do something in 30 days, he follows up. If it's not done, then you refer it, essentially, the legal process is that the weed district refers it to the county attorney's office. The county attorney's office writes a letter that says you need to clean up your weeds, and if you don't clean up your weeds, then we're going to file an action in court to get you to clean up your weeds. And Ms. Aristat has agreed that if the county would actually just start following that kind of a process and set up a schedule, she would be satisfied and that would resolve her weed issues. She has acknowledged that the county commissioners are not in charge of the weed district, and the weed district is wholly separate, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? She agrees that, yeah, she sued the wrong party over the weeds, but she still has time to file an amended complaint and sue the weed district. And that doesn't, I mean, you're still spending county funds
Right.
defending a lawsuit.
And Susan, where did this cover letter come from that ties the weed board to that? Who put that in place?
It came from the weed district.
Right,
It's
and I'm
on
ju-
weed district letterhead.
And I'm just passing
Really?
it around,
Oh.
yes. It was back in 2012. And so then I did meet with Dave Brink. I have a little sticky on there. I think it was August 24th of 2017. We went over Susan's cover letter that you had sent me, Susan, and then looked at the note he had written. And, Dave, I mean, he knows he sent it. He wasn't, it was almost kind of like, I think, like you say how you doing to somebody, and you don't really care how they're doing.
Right.
But I did say to him, but it says in there that we are going to inspect. So then Susan has reminded me about that, and I did send him an email, I think, the day before yesterday. I'm just asking him, what we're going to do about the tricon weeds or,
Well, and that cover letter actually went out on a couple of other permits as well.
Yeah, and Dave did say that they don't say that anymore in there, but.
Well, and I'm glad they
it
don't
was
say it
said,
anymore because
yes.
they didn't have to. So.
Right, yeah, they didn't have to do
Right.
it, and he said they don't do that anymore, but they did, say
I
that.
wonder why they did that.
Back in 2012. So, and I can email him again and just see if he'd be agreeable to the annual inspection, and then just a follow-up letter if it's not looking too good, and then he can refer to me or something.
In my estimation, that's what a judge is going to tell. If she sues the weed district, that's what a judge is going to tell the weed district anyway. So it's not like it's. I mean, to agree to it is not particularly onerous.
No, because I think you're right. I mean, because it says in there that's what we're going to do, even if we didn't mean it.
So then beyond that, in her complaint, I think she's finally understood that all of her other complaints about gravel permits or mineral extraction permits, those go to DEQ. She may or may not sue them. I think she sent them a demand letter, so maybe she's going to sue them. I don't care because it doesn't involve you guys. Right?
Does she live on lot 1?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and she's, that's her family's, and then is she living there now?
She comes back quite often. I don't know.
I
don't think she lives
did
there
meet
full
her.
time.
She did come up. Yeah, I did get
She
to
doesn't
meet her.
live there full time.
I mean, she was there this week because
Yeah.
she paid the taxes and signed
Right.
things.
She only
Right.
comes periodically.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And then her aunt owns lot 2. I think it's held in a family trust. So anyway, so that's and then she may sue DEQ over other complaints about DEQ's enforcement of gravel pits, and that'll be what it is. And then her final kind of generalized complaint against the county was she was complaining that the county wasn't producing records that she thought ought to have existed. And I think I've convinced her that the records don't exist and we can't produce what we don't have. So I think that one's, for all intents and purposes, resolved. So we're kind of down to, for the litigation, we're down to really if we can do something with the weeds. And, frankly, she has the right. She could go sue the weed district. And then I don't know what happens if they get a separate attorney or if I end up being the attorney for the weed district, but anyway. Then it was off the county commissioner's plates, but it's on the weed board's plate, so.
Right, and
I prefer not to,
yes.
I mean, it doesn't do anybody in Mineral County any good to trade one lawsuit for another.
No. I'm just trying to. So, how do you feel? I'll go ahead and just reach out to Dave again and just ask, if he'd be willing to commit to a letter a year.
To a what a year?
A letter a year, I mean, just go and do an inspection and then sending a letter saying, you know, hey, the weeds look great, or I mean, a letter a year if they need it. He doesn't have to send a letter saying, hey, the weeds look great, but hey, there's a concern with the weeds.
Yeah, there's some weeds. Whoever owns the property needs to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Susan, is there any way of getting another letter to undo that cover letter he had? Like from this day forward, the commissioners, the county weed board will not interfere with DEQ run pits or something like that, or is this?
Well, that's why you're not doing it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, Dave said they don't have this in their letters anymore. I don't know when they stopped, but he said that's what he relayed to me.
But no, I don't think you can go back and say, oh, we didn't mean to.
Okay. Even after a certain number of years, we're stuck with it?
Right.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I do not.
Nope. I'm so glad you came. When you came up to my office, I could not explain this. And I couldn't find my big maps.
What I'm going to do with my county road issue is I'm going to put it on something in February and send you guys a letter saying, okay, it's February and I still don't know what your decision is.
Great, and I'm actually going to give them a copy of the proposed resolutions to give them an opportunity to take a look at it.
Perfect. And so when you guys are looking at that resolution, remember there's three options. One is do nothing. Two is adopt the county road from the equivalent of the line between 5 and 6 south. And three is move, well, I guess there's four options. The option 4 is maybe you guys have a better relationship with the railroad than I do, and ask the railroad if they'll agree to grant us an easement for that road as it exists on their property. That's the third option, because if they would, that'd be simple and we wouldn't have to spend any more survey money because we already have a survey
We do have a
that
pretty
shows
good
that.
relationship with the railroad, actually. I mean, and I don't know what it would take to get a letter like that, but I think that we most certainly, between Jason and I, would most certainly talk to them and see what their feelings are.
Yeah.
That's a great option.
Especially if, like you said, the terrain is such geographically that maybe it makes sense to them to, help us out.
Yeah. That's 3, and then I guess option 4 would be commit money from the road department to move the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then survey it and then declare the entire thing a county road. So those are your 4 options.
Not just a public use, yeah. Okay.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I don't think so.
All right.
So we have until February to do this?
Well, and
yeah, I figured I'll just put it on February. I mean, like I said, it's the end of the year. We're not in a big hurry.
And just to hopefully, Susan, so that we don't forget about it. Yeah.
Right.
So then we'll have plenty of time to look at this and
Yes.
get the
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then I don't. Yeah, because I was just the county insurance. We pay the first 10,000, right, of our insurance.
I believe that's your deductible, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And we spent 7,000 on that survey.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But more is what?
So I mean, you have something in your hand for what you spent your money on. That's kind of a new and different thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking
So,
at the bright side, huh?
but yeah, I mean, you've definitely met. I mean, I think I actually ran the total on the bill, and we're at roughly 20,000 total for the litigation. And if we can wrap up the weed thing, I mean, if we could get a resolution that Joan Aristad would agree to, which is kind of what we've outlined, then really the litigation is resolved from the county standpoint.
That would be good.
Why, and it's only been a year, so, it's not that bad.
In legal
for a lawyer.
world, that's not bad in the legal world.
Yeah. You're a fast-working lawyer.
So I can talk to, I'll email Dave and see if maybe we can just come up with something, and then I can always draft the resolution.
Great.
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. I think that's, if you have questions, let me know, and that's I mean, that's my next push is to get the weeds resolved, and then I think we're gonna. She has until like the middle of November to amend her pleadings, so I'm, you know, I remain hopeful she's not going to amend her pleadings and include the weed district. But if she does, I think we still have the solution.
Right.
Okay.
Right before us. It's just a big heavy sigh because we have to answer that 156 count complaint again.
Yeah. So hopefully we can put a kibosh on that.
I'd love to.
Okay. Thank you so
All right.
much. Thanks for being
Thanks,
available.
Susan.
Yep. Have a lovely weekend.
All right, you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I figured we were way past the 10,000.
Oh, yeah. My Dave talked about it at NACO convention and, yeah. They were talking about lawsuits and where some of them were and I guess it was at the, our insurance meeting.
Which then concerns you because then insurance rates go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you access that, so even though
The more
it's.
claims we have, yeah.
Yeah, because even though, we're not paying for her now, we are technically still paying for it because the insurance rates go up. So I can, and I did just email Dave Brink just a day or two before, so I didn't give him much heads up and just follow up with him, see if we can get out a letter to her saying if he'd be willing to do that.
These are mine.
Oh, these are yours?
That you pulled out?
Jason.
These?
Or did I bring them?
Oh, I had these in my.
Can you set something up with the road?
Well, I know it was so funny because I couldn't.
Well, I really think you need to
I
talk to
couldn't find them. Jason came up a few
Tim.
weeks ago.
I mean, he was
Yeah.
adamant that he thought this
And then I
was
just.
a non-issue.
Yeah,
It was done.
that's
It
what I
was-
thought. And,
ran upstairs
you know,
and-
talking to Judy,
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's okay.
But that's what I mean, once we talk to
If
Tim
you decide to,
and decide to do nothing,
right, now I think you need to talk to Tim, because
Yeah.
I really look at this as, if you were to align this road and move it 40 feet to the west, then you're gonna be going right into this lady's yard again. I mean, you're gonna be destroying much of their landscaping and stuff, and that,
Well, like she pointed
obviously
out,
not
but
gonna
it's
make
not
them
theirs.
happy.
It's not her land,
It's not their
they're paying
land. They're
taxes.
not paying taxes on it. It's not their land, but they are gonna be upset.
Yeah.
Right,
they've
because
kinda
they
taken
have
it
a big,
over.
they have big rock work there, and they have stuff, yeah, that's not,
Yeah, that's what.
Well,
I had
then
to-
maybe what they need to do is if we do that, don't move the road, then they need to start paying taxes on that portion of land.
yeah, good luck with that.
I mean.
But well, what do you
it's kinda
think
like
about
in town
the-
here, we got somebody in town here where the street is, the right of way is so much and they just use it as their yard. Can they just be grandfathered it if we're letting other people do it?
But I think that, if you guys have connections with the railroad, that would be a great option.
Jason did.
and it could be an option. I mean, we've done, we share easements with them. I don't know, maybe it's not. But I think we should talk.
Yeah.
That's, Tim, that's important. And this isn't on fire. That's not something that's critical. Because one of the options is do nothing.
Right, because what this all came from was the lawsuit that this lady had with, and it ended up being with Tricon. If that lawsuit's done, this whole thing is resolved.
Right, but then it's not declared a county road.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
Not declared public road, yeah.
If this
Well, it's
lady
public
gets-
use, yeah.
if our-
But they're gonna cut it off.
Right, and it sounds like it's never gonna join anywhere.
If
And
this lady
they're
gets
going
tipped
into
over-
Tricon's yard once it did go
If this
anywhere.
attorney gets
That's
tipped
the
over
only
over
reason
this
Tricon
little
wanted
thing,
it.
hopefully she doesn't look at any of our other roads, because
Yeah,
throughout.
it ain't the only one. No, but
I'm
that
being
isn't
honest.
any secret, I can tell you that.
Yeah, we've run into road issues all over, things that are
From the 60s. maybe.
or before.
All right, so I gave you a copy of the, just the proposed, I should give a couple, the proposed resolution, and then even like a draft of a letter potentially for you guys to look at. We have some time to look at that, and then,
Tim has that on Tuesday. You know if you got that or did you send it?
Yeah, I seen your mouth going.
Sorry.
oh, that's okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, we have to pay for it till
Yeah,
February.
well, that's now.
This is the-
Then when you said that, I went,
This
oh,
is
yeah.
the,
Yeah, you know.
But only $100 an hour.
I have the,
Well, we're already, we've already paid the $10,000. so-
Yeah, that's, I know.
Lucky us.
what's the cover, what's the date on that letter?
Well, there's a resolution number and there's
Oh,
no date.
okay, I must have taken the letter. Let me give you this too, and then we'll make a copy. How about would you make a copy for Tim and me, and then we can give them this? Okay, that's great. Yeah, so Tim can see it too. Yeah, I may as well, it's the cover letter. And then it's just like some examples if we want to either send a letter, if we want to do a resolution. You may decide to do nothing. Especially when we're talking about, that's why I want to make sure Jason is aware if there's a financial, fiscal note tied to it. For a road that, I mean, it'd be nice to clean it up, but
Yeah.
at what cost?
It'd be easier to me, it'd be easier to go down and cut it at 5 and 6, call that county road, build it around.
Yeah,
And that is
what
an
difference
option.
what difference does it make to us?
Right.
I mean, really,